Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight, we have guest Martin Keller. He's the author of a new book, or newish, Space Pen Club. It's about his experiences, delving back into his own experiences with UFOs and some paranormal encounters, and his investigations into basically the pop culture of UFOs. So we're going to talk about his experiences, which I'm about 60, 70 pages into his book right now. Hadn't had a lot of time to read this week, but I find it really interesting. Kind of like a pop culture. When they talk pop cultures, it reminds a little bit of like if Hunter S. Thompson went on the search of UFOs. Kind of it's what it reminds me of reading his book. It's very interesting. It's called Space Pen Club. For you guys who are going to check it out. Martin Keller, our guest, will join us after the World Wide Web of Weird after our first commercial break. And of course, we will open up the phone lines later in the show. Please call in with your UFO experience. If you want to share or ask Martin a question or ask him about his own experiences, that's all welcome. But like I said, those phone lines will be open later in the show. Got a lot of weird to get to as well. The World Wide Web of Weird now. Not as much this week. I admit I took a little time to find it, but I got two amazing people. One at the beginning of the World Wide Web of Weird and one at the end. Two people I highly respect. I get to cover stories on, so that's awesome. We've got a lot to get to. Gonna have a great guest. So let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Martin Keller, author of the Space Pen Club, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird after our first commercial break. Joining us now, as always, and welcome back since we didn't have her on last week, is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing a lot better, thank you.
Yes. I was telling you, I have had neck problems for years now, and I will admit, after every show, my neck feels like crap. I don't know why, if it's like sitting up talking or whatever. So when you said you had a neck issue, I'm like, yeah, don't irritate it by coming on. So thank you for joining us tonight, though. All right, we got Rob Autry from St. Augustine, Florida, as well. Cool shades.
Speaking of Hunter S. Thompson.
Right. Flying bats.
Drugs kicked in around Barstow.
Yeah, right around Barstow. Well, hopefully the drugs will kick around and around the World Wide Web of Weird. But yes, check out Rob and Jamie. We're Weird Wednesdays every Wednesday. I haven't been on. I'm so sorry. I have to get up early to take my kids to school, but I want to be on here soon. And I know you guys are going to probably do your own Halloween show. I'd like to try to get on that. And you guys will be, of course, we'll have our Halloween show on Halloween. Paranormal Soup Halloween show on Halloween. Katrina Cooper and Rhodey Speak have confirmed for that as well. Exciting. It's an annual tradition to bring them on, so I can't wait. But we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. First up on the World Wide Web of Weird, like I said, I get to start the World Wide Web of Weird with a really cool person. I'll end it with a really cool person. Somebody I, kind of love, and ever since my childhood, I'm a Trekkie. Everybody knows it. And I saw this news, and I had to cover it. I'm sure all of you have seen it by now, but I don't care. I'm going to cover it anyways. Captain Kirk is going to space. Yes, Captain Kirk is really going to space. William Shatner, 90 years old, is going up in Jeff Bezos' penis rocket and is going to space.
What do you mean we're really going to space? He's always been in space, man.
For those listening on the Paranormal Radio Network or Paranormal Soup's Radio Network on the Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream, we are a webcast. We do stream live out to Facebook, YouTube, and even Twitch. Yeah, Twitch. Wow, video game world, but we're there too. You can watch us if you want, but I'll narrate as best as possible. Yes, first up here is William Shatner from Star Trek. If you don't know what that is, I don't know where you've been. Star Trek, William Shatner finally goes to space on Jeff Bezos' penis rocket. Now, it just says rocket. The penis thing's my thing. William Shatner, actor best known for playing Captain James T. Kirk on the original Star Trek series, will finally take off into space for real. The iconic Canadian actor is set to fly into planetary orbit on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket next month. According to a report from TMZ, the 90-year-old actor will boldly go where only a few men have gone before aboard the second ever flight of the New Shepard capsule. Given Shatner's age, the feat will make him the oldest person in history to go to space. TMZ also reported the flight will be filmed for a documentary Shatner is working on, and that the actor will likely be comped for his flight. He doesn't have to pay to go up there. Come on, you're gonna make Captain Kirk pay to go up there? No, you're gonna pay him. You're gonna pay him to go up there, especially 90 years old. Don't kill him, Jeff Bezos. National treasure for Canada and even America, and all sci-fi fans. For an actor who came into prominence at the height of the Cold War space race of the 1960s, it's fitting that Shatner should be one of the first people to take humanity into a competition into space, one dominated by billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, who seek to commercialize space flight. You know, all the critics when they went up, like they didn't really, and NASA critics, they didn't really go up in space. You better not say that about Captain Kirk. When he goes up in that penis rocket, it's in space. He went to space, shut your mouth. I think it's awesome. William Shatner's awesome.
It's way awesome.
I mean, how cool can you be? William Shatner, come on now.
Well, his lingerie company failed, so,
So did his music career. Why? I mean, who doesn't like spoken word?
I didn't know he had a
Jefferson Airplane. Go look it up, Jamie. Come on, God. Okay. All right. Straight out of a South Park episode here. I swear to God it is, if anybody knows what episode I'm talking about. New Zealand cops bust duo trying to smuggle huge haul of KFC past lockdown. Authorities in New Zealand made a proverbial finger-licking arrest, this is from Coast to Coast Tim Binnell, when they caught a pair of men trying to smuggle a massive haul of Kentucky Fried Chicken past a coronavirus lockdown. The strange bust reportedly occurred near the city of Auckland, which is currently under strict restrictions due to the pandemic, and as such, restaurants as well as takeout establishments have been forced to temporarily close. Cops keep an eye on the border, understandably, and had the suspicions raised with suspicions raised by the smell of finger-licking good KFC. No. Their suspicions raised when they saw a car headed towards them before abruptly making a U-turn and speeding away from police. Note to smugglers and people trying to cross the border: when you do that, you're screwed. They know. I think it's a good given clue when you you do the U-turn. You're screwed, man. You should have just tried to get. Cool. You should have just tried to play it cool and got through there. But I think the KFC smell they knew that was it. They weren't going to get away with the KFC smell. I mean, they could probably hide the smell of weed, but you're not going to hide the smell of KFC. The ill-advised evasive move led to a brief chase. Imagine running from Throw the KFC out the window, man. Throw the KFC out the window.
They're slipping on the greasy skins.
Trying to eat it as much as... Let me just eat all the skins first. Or Isaac moving over led to a brief chase that accumulated with a vehicle being stopped, at which point the ranger's strange discovery was made. Upon opening the trunk of the car, police were astounded to see a staggering amount of Kentucky Fried Chicken that the duo had presumably planned to smuggle in the city. A photograph later released by authorities shows 4 buckets of chicken, a jaw-dropping 10 containers of coleslaw. Coleslaw? That's the gross stuff. And 4 sizable KFC bags likely contain even more of the fast food. You know, those bags probably had the mashed potatoes and gravy, man. You got to have that. In addition to all the food, police also found a whopping $70,000 in cash. Authorities are uncertain as whether or not the food was for the 2 men and some friends, or if they were planned to try and sell the contraband chicken to Upland residents who are desperate for a taste of the famed Colonel's original recipe. They can't even get fast food there, man. It's on such lockdown. Isn't that crazy?
I wonder if there's something hidden in the food.
This is why people go to revolt, man. They can't get their KFC.
I did that. I saw a roadblock one time. They were doing like license checks or something, and I panicked and I did the U-turn. It was a bad move.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
I guarantee. They should have just tried to make it, but like I said, all that KFC. I think they had drug dogs there. The drug dogs were like,
the dogs.
That ain't drugs,
crazy.
but that is something.
All I picture is Cartman in the Colonel.
I know. Yeah, eating all the KFC fried chicken skin off of it and leaving it for everybody. All right, anyways. Yes, we're South Park fans. All right, next. I'm going to explain mysteries here, but this is the post on Twitter. I found this really interesting. Mystery woman in Croatia can't recall her own name. Police in Croatia are investigating a case of a mystery woman who is unable to recall anything about her life. According to the reports, the woman who is believed to be in her 60s was discovered sitting on the rocks of Croatia's Kirk Island back on September 12th. Sporting cuts on her face, the woman was able to speak perfect English, but did not seem to be aware of what happened to her or even who she was or where she came from. She was taken to a local hospital for treatment. However, despite their best efforts, authorities have been unable to determine her identity and are now appealing for the public's assistance. According to local residents, the mystery is deepened further still by the fact that she was discovered on the rocks because the area itself is dangerous and inaccessible. And in addition, given her physical condition, there's no way she swam to the island, so it seems that she was either dumped there by someone or had washed up there after falling into the sea. According to the police description, she is 5'4", has shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes. She was found wearing a striped navy blue T-shirt, black trousers, and a pink linen cap. And there's a picture of her up here. We got, that's it. That's all they got on it. But it's weird that she just pops up out of nowhere. Can't remember her name, who she was, and nobody's looking for her in that area. I mean, how did she get there? And why is nobody looking for her?
I'm not saying it was aliens, but
or time travel, time slips. Maybe she's not
fell
from
out the
time
sky,
even.
yeah.
I would love to know how much memory she does have. What does she remember? I mean, like, she doesn't remember anything.
Or she went on vacation alone and did something and forgot. What was that movie? Not Groundhog Day, but 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Drew Barrymore, and yeah. I mean, maybe she has recurring amnesia. You mean? Something like that, But I would say she has amnesia from her injuries, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it looks like she took a pretty good conk to the nose and head there. It's just weird that nobody's looking for her. Nobody's come forward. I have not seen an update on this yet. Unless anybody else does, you can email me at jblandparanormalsoup@gmail.com. Let me know. Or no, it's paranormalsoupjbland@gmail.com. Sorry, paranormalsoupjbland@gmail.com. Okay, let's move on before I run out of time here. All right, so I found this interesting. Especially, I was talking a lot. Hopefully soon there'll be a podcast coming out on Josh Turner's Paranormal Roundtable that I did. Had a lot of fun talking with him, and we talked a lot about the genies, and a lot of other stuff. I mean, it was pretty much a soupy recorded. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it in an episode because me, I took it all over the place. But I found this interesting because this cave in Yemen, it's called the Well from Hell, is known as a jinn den, like a place where genies would come from. The locals would stay away from there. Well, some cavers said, screw that, we're going down. Curious chasm in Yemen, dubbed the Well from Hell, has finally been explored by cavers in what is thought to be the first documented expedition down to the centuries-old hole in the desert. Although the location had something of a fearsome reputation among local inhabitants of the area due to its long-standing legends suggesting the puzzling pit was home to the infamous Jinn, it largely came to an attention of the world at large back in June by way of media coverage detailing how authorities in the country were baffled by the strange sight and the previous attempts to get to the bottom of the pit had failed. It would seem that those headlines caught the attention of a group of cavers who set about conquering the chasm once and for all. Last week, 8 members of the Oman Cave Exploration Team reportedly descended into the Well from Hell and captured breathtaking, never-before-seen footage from inside the ominous pit. According to the geology professor Mohammed Al-Kindi, who participated in the investigation at the bottom of the cavern, they spotted snakes, yeah, I wouldn't go there, that were largely harmless, as well as dead birds and formations known as cave pearls. Passions drove us to do this, he explained, and we felt that it was something that will reveal a new wonder and part of the Yemeni history. While down in the pit, the cavers collected samples of the water, rocks, and the downed birds that were later be analyzed by scientists. And I have this from Coast to Coast. There's a couple of articles on this you can find. Coast to Coast has a link to the video, and I highly recommend go watch it if you're interested in this kind of, I used to love to go caving. And yes, I knew there were snakes and stuff when I'd go caving. I still did it. I loved it. Even though I'm totally, I would not want to, say, oh, there's snakes down there. Okay, nope. But it is beautiful. You should see this. It is incredible. This thing's like 1 million years old or more. And it's huge. And it looks like the pit of Sarlacc from Star Wars or something. But these guys went down in it. Pretty awesome. Now, the question is, they're like, see, nothing normal, paranormal here. Jinn, you're not going to see with your eyes. I'd love to know what happens to these guys later on. Just saying, maybe they have some paranormal occurrences. It would be interesting to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Probably not. Probably won't hear anything. But it'd be interesting to know if one of these cavers later comes on like, I had all these experiences afterwards. Maybe, probably not. But
woke up
we'll see.
In my bed.
Or weird dreams afterwards.
Yeah. Maybe they will, and they'll never share it, But I'd say this is where my curiosity went. Because, if it's jinn infested, you go there. You're not going to see the jinn, but you might be tormented by them later. They're not seen. Look at the mythology of it. All right, let's move on. Of course, I'm getting through it pretty quick. Oh, well. All right, let's move on to this next one. Now, this is I'm going to say this is something, when I saw this article, and I immediately went, yeah, this is a bunch of baloney, not by the person who's reporting it, not by the person who discovered it, but that this was a hoax planted in this house. Because me and my wife talked about doing something like this, before. I've thought about doing something like this, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. From LA Bible, homeowner discovers creepy doll and chilling note left behind in new home he purchased. A homeowner was shocked to find a rag doll and a chilling note hidden behind a wall in his new home. Jonathan Lewis, 32, had just picked up the keys to his new gaff in Liverpool when he decided to check out what was inside a space beneath the stairs that had been boarded up. This already seems like something from a horror movie, doesn't it? Primary school teacher Jonathan started to bash through the wall and discovered an innocent-looking little rag doll wearing a pinstripe dress. But the cute doll was holding a spine-chilling note, which claimed the doll had killed the previous owners. Lovely. It read, "Dear reader, new homeowner, thank you for freeing me." Hold on, my article. No, don't do that. Dang article. Hold on a second. Why does it want to load? There we go. "My name is Emily. My original homeowners lived in this house in 1961. I didn't like them, so they had to go. All they did was sing and be merry. It was sickening." This would sound like my 9-year-old who can't stand singing. "Stabbing was my choice of death for them, so I hope you have knives. Hope you sleep well." And there's like a little wink drawn on the note. There's another picture, I think. I have photo 2, maybe, of the note. And this is the giveaway that it's not from 1961, because anybody's ever found a piece of paper from anything 20 years old, let alone 40, 50 years old, it's not going to look like that. It's not going to look white. I don't care if it's been behind a wall sealed. It's still going to be brownish yellow by the time you get it.
Whoever they just bought the house from did that for,
and
giggles.
He goes, finally the guy went to the realtor. Right? And that's what you should do in this case. Ask the realtor. The realtor goes, that kitchen was redone 5 years ago. And that's probably when the previous owner left it there. It's something, though, when I read this, I was like, this is something I thought about doing. It would be, we always said, like, what if you'd left something like this, when you're remodeling for somebody, like leave them a note or leave them something to creep them out. Yeah, somebody had that idea in Liverpool about 5 years ago.
When I did construction, I had little hidden things that I would put, like, in schools and in the roofs of houses and stuff that I would know was there. Never thought about something like this, though.
I'll never forget, I had one case where somebody's like, I found a bunch of razor blades in the wall. I'm like, well, there's an explanation for that. No, how could they get there? I'm like, because back in the day, people would literally put their medicine cabinet up there, and they have a little slot, and guys would, instead of throwing away the razor blade, they'd put it in the slot and go in the wall for whoever cares. I don't know why he would have thought that was like the best idea for getting rid of the razor blades, but they did this in homes. So like that's why there's razor blades like all in your wall there.
I was in Target the other day looking at Halloween decorations, and they got all the skeletons and this and that, and this like older lady came up next to me and she goes, "You should buy like 3 of these and just go home and put them in your wall in your house." I did that. I was like, really?
The skeletons?
Yeah.
So you've done it. Now you've left it for somebody that's going to freak out if they ever come out of their house.
I haven't done it. She said she did it.
Oh, she did it. Oh, she did it.
She's like, you should get a few of these and just put them in your walls.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
I'm
People play pranks.
disappointed in myself.
All right, this next one I feel kind of bad about. I'm about to debunk this article from dailyrecord.co.uk. It talks about UFO spotted hovering over Edinburgh Airport, leaving Scott's family stunned. 12-year-old Jack McKnight captured the bizarre floating object while taking pictures of planes over Edinburgh Airport. All right, so we got a video of this. It's a really short clip, and I don't think this is like this kid trying to fake anything. I think this is a typical, there's the kid, him looking out. He likes to look up in the sky. He likes to videotape planes, and he thinks he got something. And I am so sorry, kiddo. I don't think he got something. And this is a common thing I see with UFO video pictures out through windows or through cars. You're going to see there's I don't know if you can see that it's behind a window. There's definitely a window there. Like he's maybe in a car or he's looking out a window of somewhere. And you see, go ahead and play the video, see if anybody spots it before I say. Go ahead and play this. It's really short. I try to slow it down later. And I think I do a zoom in of it and I slow it down. Because what I notice right away is there's a shadow that comes in front and blocks half of the thing right there. It's really quick. I think it's a reflection. So you can see it's the top. There's a window there. I think the shadow for his head blocks whatever's being reflected behind him that's coming that he thinks is a UFO. He's saying plane. I think, let's see. I'm trying to read the article, but it keeps flipping out. I hate it when it does that. The plane. Jack McKnight, 12, had been filming planes taking off and landing on a runway yesterday afternoon when he captured, and this is from, I think, last Saturday, when he captured the bizarre footage outside an object in the sky. He had been attending the Truckfest Scotland at the Royal Highland Centre in Ingliston with his mom and sister Jade, along with their little boy. And the article does not want to go forward. The family from Lanark all had been interested in airplanes and decided to film them taking off near Edinburgh Airport while tracking them off their flight radar. The unidentified shape appeared in the video as Jack was filming a Norwegian aeroplane taking off from its runway. Jack said he was shocked when he discovered the strange ship on the video when he got home. See, he didn't notice it when it happened. And he discovered it later when he got home. And I can see where it looks like a UFO in the sky. But you see that right there, that little shadow that comes in front of it? That's his head over here while he's filming it, or somebody else's head. And it blocks the view, whatever's reflecting on the inside. That makes that look like a UFO. I've seen a lot of these.
I was curious if he saw it with his eye or after.
Yeah, he didn't see it till after. That's the point I want to get to. So just know, if you think you got something, these are factors you got to take in. I see this happen a lot. It's innocent mistake. But I doubt that's a UFO. I really do think it's a reflection in the window. I've seen a dozen of these UFO videos like this.
And no matter the age, everybody.
Yeah, anybody
lots
can make
of people
this mistake.
make that mistake. Yeah.
I felt bad. Why did it have to be a 12-year-old boy that I got to debunk his footage? Why?
But good for him. Looking up to the sky and questioning.
He likes
things.
planes. That's cool. Maybe he'll be a pilot. I don't know. Not a UFO researcher, though. No, sorry. I'm a jerk. All right. Last part. Like I said, I get to cover somebody really cool. I mean, how much cooler can Sammy Hagar get? I mean, really. Van Halen. I mean, literally, how much cooler can Sammy Hagar get? He's now come out. Red Rocker Sammy Hagar talks about his alien abduction. This is from Mystery Wire, and my articles are flipping out, and I want to read this, damn it. I'm running out of time. I don't know why my phone keeps... I'm trying to read it off my tablet here. It keeps flipping them out. Damn it, come on. I can't read it if it's going to do that. Let me close everything else out and see if I can get this article to read. But yeah, Sammy Hagar came out about his UFO abduction experience. This is from September 22nd from Mystery Wire. Rocker Sammy Hagar met with the media yesterday in Las Vegas during a promotional stop and opened up about his alien abduction he said took place in almost 60 years ago. Hagar is currently 73 years old. 73 years old, but he looks amazing. Hagar was commemorating the launch of Sammy's Beach Bar Cocktail Co. Sparkling Rum Cocktail, and by doing a rooftop concert overlooking Las Vegas Strip. Hagar is also gearing up for his new residency at the Strat later this fall. Sammy Hagar and friends will feature Hagar performing blah, blah, blah. Let's move on to the good stuff. Shortly before the rooftop... Damn it. And then the article flips on me when I get to the good stuff. I wanted to talk about his UFO abduction. I think what's cool is that we're getting more celebrities coming out about their experiences. I remember years ago people kind of laughing at Yaphet's Kodo came out about his alien abduction experience in a Vice article. And I was friends with him on Facebook, and I tried talking him into coming on the show. And, he did the one interview. He really wanted to keep talking about it. But, it came out that he was experienced UFO abductions. And then he passed away. But I think there's a lot of celebrities have had these experiences. Don't get to talk about it. I don't get to talk about Sammy Hagar's experience because the article keeps screwing up on me here. Anyway, here we go. Yes, it's true. You don't go around saying all the stuff like that. This is from Sammy. People call you a nut. Everybody that ever asked me about that and expects me to try to backpedal. 100% happened. 4 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark, dead sleep. I felt like I was being programmed, like someone was tapping into me, like it was a string from my head to 13 miles up on a mountain place called Lou Creek. And then the article keeps disappearing on me. Oh my God. Dang it. It keeps disappearing on me, so I can't read it. I can't read it, darn it. But he basically feels like something was like giving him a message, and like he could feel it up in the sky, like had this connection. And like I said, Mystery Wire, go read it for yourself because we're going to run out of time. But Sammy Hagar, keep on impressing me. You're the ultimate rock star. Thank you for coming out with your story and telling people, not being afraid to tell people because you're just that cool. I'm not a drinker, but I would totally go drink at his bar. I'd totally drink the tropical drinks and chill out with Sammy Hagar. That's like totally a bucket list dream.
Definitely.
And then I'd be like that interview guy. You remember that time, Sammy, in Van Halen? Yeah. Oh yeah, stupid. Yeah, I would be an awe legend, the rock star, Sammy Hagar, an admitted UFO abduction experiencer. So that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Yeah, what?
I was trying to remember the name of the bar, not Margaritaville.
Yeah, no, that's Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett, yeah.
Cabo Wabo.
Yeah, Cabo Wabo. Yeah, man, it would be cool to go there. Hey, Sammy, let's hang out, drink, and talk about your UFO experiences and abductions. Come on. Oh, that'd be a dream. But our guest tonight is Martin Keller. We're going to talk about his book, Space Pen Club, when we return from this short commercial break. And later, we will open up the phone lines. You can ask questions of our guest or talk about your own experiences with UFOs or alien abduction. We are an open forum here. We believe you. We listen to your stories. We don't mock you. And I think you could be just as awesome as Sammy Hagar if you want to share your experience. But we'll be right back after the short commercial break with our guest, Martin Keller.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your host, Jamie. the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping, Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest. The true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Martin Keller. Martin Keller is a former pop culture journalist, published author, and unproduced screenplay writer whose work has appeared in Rolling Stone, Leaders, Washington Post, the Boston Globe, Final Frontier, Billboard, Utne Reader, I'm not sure, Right On, Star Tribune, Mpls-St, Paul Business Journal, City Pages, and many others with appearances on Today, 48 Hours, PBS Public Radio, and more. Keller has also written Hijinx and Hearsay, Scenester Stories from Minnesota's Pop Life, and contributed to Minnesota's series. For the past 25 years, he has worked on an award-winning public relations pro, including an adventurous stint for the Centers of Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or CSETI, that's Stephen Greer's group. The Space Pen Club, that's his newest book, is based in part on that period. I've been reading it. I'm about 60, 70 pages in, and as people have heard me on the show, I'm not the biggest fan of Stephen Greer, even though I'd have him on the show. I totally would. I would love to talk to him. But I'm really fascinated, though. I've got not a lot of time to read. I only had a little bit of time to read this week, but I got sucked in to where I'm at right now is his experiences with Stephen Greer. And, he seems like a really fascinating guy. CSETI, I've always respected for the ideas that they want to try to do, contacting alien life out there that's visiting us now. I'm totally behind that. And, I've had my issues with everybody in probably the UFO field. But I find Martin Keller's take on his experience with Stephen Greer really fascinating, and I can't wait to finish this book. We will open up your phone lines later in the show for you guys to call in. You can talk about your experiences or ask Martin a question about his experiences, or maybe his experiences with Stephen Greer. I know I've had people that love him or hate him. He brings out the strong feelings either way. That's what Stephen Greer does. So I'm interested to talk about his experience with that, but he's had his own personal experiences that led him down this kind of path, and that's what I really enjoy talking about, is people's personal experiences when it comes to the paranormal, UFOs, because we're all pieces of the puzzle to this great mystery, and that's why I do this show. Later on, call in the show and add your own piece to the puzzle and tell us about your experience, but let's get to our guest. All right, let's make sure we get our guest on. How you doing tonight, Martin?
Good. How you doing, Jason?
Doing great. It's an honor to have you on the show. I was hoping to get more of your book read before the show tonight. I will admit I've had a very busy week. I'm about 70 pages in. I'm really into the part where you're your first meetings with Dr. Stephen Greer and CSETI, which, I'm an old Art Bell fan. I used to listen to Stephen Greer interviews over the years, and I found him fascinating. I just had particular issues with some of the evidence that's been put forth over the years of Stephen Greer. But that I can probably pick apart with a lot of UFO people in the field. I'm a questioner. That's how I am. I don't accept everything at just face value. I'm a believer in the possibility, and I've had my own experiences. What I'm interested in is the experiences that led you to, get into, CSETI, into the UFO field. I mean, it's a crazy field that when you drive into that rabbit hole, it can take you down to a lot of different paths.
Yeah, it's not something you plan for.
Right.
That said, I've been interested in outer space since I was a kid. I was a total space geek. I wrote to NASA in the 60s when the space programs launched and asked them for information on Mercury, Apollo, and Gemini programs, and I got packets of information back with autograph photos of the astronauts, and then I actually wrote a personal letter to John Glenn after his.
Oh my God! I'd be over top as a kid if I got something like that.
Yeah, well, I put him right up there with all the rock and roll gods I worshipped in that era. And, so I've always been interested in space. I had 2 sightings in high school with a couple of high school buddies.
Yeah.
Basically in the same week, a very cold week in western North Dakota, February. And, I went off to college. I didn't think about UFOs. I didn't think about anything about the paranormal. My sightings were pretty dramatic, and we can get into the details of those if we need to. But, for a long period, I just shut down on topic. I was in college. I had better things to do. And then in the early 90s, a friend of mine in Minneapolis, where I live, called me and said, "Are you interested in doing a freelance piece on this guy who's doing some interesting research in the UFO world. And I said, well, UFOs, I haven't been into that. I haven't really thought about that since I was in high school, but I was totally into it. But
Yeah.
the more I heard about this guy, whose name was Dr. Stephen Greer, and his CE5 initiative, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, human-initiated contact, the more intrigued I was. So I flew out to LA for a long weekend, shadowed Greer, and sat through the workshop, and then did the Skywatch at night with a fairly large group of Los Angelinos. And I wrote the story. I couldn't sell it. I could have sold it yesterday if the internet had been up and running. This is the early 90s. The net was really getting launched, but and I couldn't sell the story, and I'd been doing.
You could have if you went on Art Bell. I can guarantee if you would have gone on Art Bell, you would have sold it.
Well, maybe. You never know. But I told Greer at some point, I can probably get you the visibility you want and do a better job of that by coming on board as your PR person, which I did for about the next 5 to 6 years. And we had some interesting adventures, many of which are captured in the Space Pen Club book. But prior to meeting Greer, I had a lot of strange stuff going on in my house that, 6 months prior, I wasn't sure what was happening. At one point, I questioned my mental stability, and
that's what these scenes do.
Yeah, but I had precognitive dreams. I had lights coming on in the house that my wife and I had turned off repeatedly. And one particular night, there was an audio component with the lights coming on. It sounded like cat rutting, like when cats get into it outside in the alley.
Some spooks them and they go running across like the hardwood floor kind of sound. Yeah,
it was a really strange night of sights and sounds, and then a series of dreams that kept repeating over and over.
Right.
So that's how I kind of got here. And then, 10 years ago, I decided I should get this all down on paper before I get any older and more senile. So.
Well, the Space Pen Club was a club you belonged to in college,
right? There actually really is a Space Pen Club,
right?
It still meets. A friend of mine found a space pen in the college bookstore, brought it back to the dorms, and shared it around with all the guys. And I was at an all-male college at that point with a sister school 3 miles away. And at first it became something of a joke, and then it became this iconic symbol. The first pen to write in space. We thought that was pretty cool. We built kind of a club around it. We'd have spring writes, peek with the leaves, and a little experimentation. And to me personally, it represents the Space Pen Club represented self-exploration, cosmic consciousness and communication, transcendence, and the occasional quest for beer, girls, tunes, and controlled substances.
Sounds like my kind of club. I'm not joking. That was like, sign me up.
It was the mid '70s. A lot of stuff being experimented with, a lot of mind-bending substances. But our founder, our kind of accidental founder, really came to the conclusion that the pen represented possibilities. And I think the whole
I like that.
Yeah, the whole UFO discussion represents possibilities.
Exactly.
What if we had a real disclosure? What if we had interplanetary relationships, official ones? What if we had? What if we got to the bottom of what's real and what's not, and we threw the secrecy out? We threw all the subterfuge out. We started to define what's really ET and what's other paranormal ephemera,
or military.
Yeah, or what's military and or what's spiritual manifestations or whatever. I mean, this is all virgin frontier, I think.
It is, and like Sammy Hagar's experience. I was trying to read the dang article that kept on glitching out of me, but he had like because I have friends that are abductees, like serious abductees, so they have physical effects and marks and implants. So I do believe in a physical aspect to alien abduction. I know this Paranormal Soup, we go all over the place, but there's also this idea that people aren't being abducted, that it's all consciousness, that they're being taken, and you kind of get into this in the book, that their mind's being tapped from something outside or another dimension possibly. And I'm not willing to throw that out the window just because my friends have had physical experience. I think we could have both going on. I don't know, but I think of it as a possibility. I've had my own personal experiences make me wonder about that. It's a strange phenomenon with a lot of people with a lot of different experiences. And like I said, you go down a lot of rabbit holes once you start looking into this, and a lot of possibilities. It makes the mind wonder, at the mystery of our own existence when you go into this field.
I think that's exactly right. And I think, a lot of these things aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
They could be happening within consciousness, inside your own head, but there could also be the very real or physical abduction experience. I mean, I talked to several people in the book that had those experiences, the high strangeness stuff that I experienced in my own home. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm still trying to figure that out. One of the narrative lines in the book is really what exactly were these experiences? Were they ET? Were they something else? So there's a lot of question marks in my book.
I don't want to give away. I don't want you to give away your book tonight, but I do want to get into the experiences. I'm very interested in that because I've had my own really. Ever since I remember, I've had a lot of different paranormal experiences, but I've had a few that are really severe that also connect to an alien connection, an experience that I wrote off for years. I don't know how, since I've always been into this, but I would write it off. And a friend of mine, Terry Lovelace, before he was my friend, I read his book about alien abduction, kind of woke me up to these experiences and go, why did I write all these off? It's just dreams and nothing else. And it's just my imagination. When I've been into this so much, it's like I was wired not to look at them. And talking to people like Terry and other abductees, they've had paranormal experiences that happen in their homes as well. Like, if it wasn't for the alien abduction part of what's going on in their life, you would look at it as their house is haunted, or there's psychokinetic activity or something going on in the paranormal ghost realm. But it's happening in their homes just like it would if somebody's haunted, but they're an alien abductee.
Yeah, that was my first thought when some of the weirdness started happening in our home in the early 90s, even before meeting Greer. I thought, well, maybe it's some kind of poltergeist activity. It was all new and strange to me. I was obviously into the subject as a kid and in high school, but I put it all aside for a long time. But I devote an entire chapter 3, to the whole so-called alien abduction experience, and whether it's real or whether it's taking place only in consciousness, or whether it's some kind of black ops military abduction that I analyze
all the above.
Yeah, I analyze it pretty closely. Why would the military want to conduct fake abduction experiences? And my first reaction was to pollute the real ones, the ones
right,
to discredit them and to create this huge base of fear around the topic. And as we slowly inch forward to what looks like a true government engagement with some kind of disclosure that's been going on since this report dropped in June, why is that happening now, number one? But number two, the big disclosure for people, because this is the big question everyone's going to ask, like, okay, there's life on other planets in other dimensions, and it's somehow reaching us here. What about all these abductions I've heard about, and these films I've watched, and these movies, and that's going to be a really tough puzzle for government officials to navigate this.
I've described it as a snowball effect. Once the rabbit's out of the hat, once the snowball starts rolling, it gains more and more momentum, with more questions, like you're asking. What about abductees? What about that? It's and like high profile people like Sammy Hagar now coming out and feeling comfortable. I have my criticism of the whole disclosure thing. But the one thing I keep saying about it, at least it's getting people opening up to talk about it, would maybe never talked about it before. And we have to celebrate that. We have to celebrate the fact that people are feeling a little more comfortable to come out and talk about it. I believe the true disclosure comes from people, from us and our experiences. I doubt we're going to get very much out of our government. I doubt we're going to get very much out of their newest Project Blue Book, basically what it's going to be. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't feel like we're going to get much out of our government. You know what? You asked why you think it's happening. Why did they start with this disclosure? Well, what a perfect time, because we're all distracted by so many other things right now. It's not totally blowing people's mind. We're not having like a War of the Worlds, like Orwell moment where everybody's panicking, like, oh my God, they're right, they're emitting aliens. We're all distracted by everything right now. I don't think much matters, but information's power. And I think there's plenty of people within our government, high-level people, that don't have knowledge of UFOs or aliens, but they know of its existence, but they don't know about the programs, they don't have the information, they don't have the access. But what a better way of getting their hands on it by forcing out the issue and forcing it out in the public. Because people involved in this, like the disclosure early on, were people like in the Clinton administration, like John Podesta. And you look at what the Clintons did when they were in office, they tried to get information on UFOs and were shut out, just like Carter was, too. Information's power, and what better way to try to get that by forcing the issue out into the media?
Yeah, that was one of the things that attracted me to Greer's organization, aside from the CE5 initiative, is, eventually he rolled out 2 public disclosure efforts,
right?
Grassroots efforts. And I think anytime there's been any significant progress with the government, the U.S. government, it's come because concerned citizens have made an effort to change the status quo, whether, you're talking civil rights, women's rights, the whole radiation testing on service women, that didn't come, that wasn't disclosed fully until
the ski experiment.
Yeah. So, I'm a firm believer in the power of people to get things done, and the government will, hopefully fall in line.
That's what I mean. If there's a disclosure, it's us. We will push that movement. They're not going to willingly give that information away. And a lot of times I think this stuff is all out in the private sector, and not many people within the government actually know or have access to it. I think that's one of the reasons why we don't know. They can say that they don't know because it left out of the government's hands probably in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, Chapter 9 and 10 are devoted largely in part to disclosure and why or why not it works or doesn't work. As you said in Phil Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, a lot of the assets do reside in the private sector. The government doesn't build anything, doesn't make anything. It contracts out to these high tech,
and they're doing more and more every day.
Yeah, and it's that's where these programs exist, and the secrecy that's been hatched around it has been very effective. These unacknowledged special access projects and UAP. The other acronym, which is escaping my brain at the moment, but it's been very effective, and the government does a great job of keeping secrets, even from the high-ranking military generals, presidents, congressmen. It's kind of a self-contained, self-perpetuating model, and it's kudos to them. But I think the public, the citizen efforts have been very effective over the years in wearing down the control of the information. And there's simply been too many sightings, too many really good books written on topic. So they're losing control of the narrative in large part. And, shows like yours, other podcasts around the world, it's kind of a tsunami effect right now, and we need even more of that as this thing moves forward.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say we are the disclosure movement, not the government. us getting out there with our voices. This is why I have phone lines for people to call in, tell their experiences. Not that I'm a big show, I'm a little show, but everybody doing their part of giving people a platform to talk about their experiences and feel open and not afraid or ridiculed for it. And Sammy Hagar, that happened, how many years ago he said? I forgot, but a long time ago. And now he's just coming out to talk about it. I mean, Terry Lovelace's Incident at Devil's Den, that's something that happened to him in the 70s. I mean, he had a lot of other experiences, but he didn't come out about it until he had retired out of law, being a lawyer.
Yeah.
He waited, all these people waited till their professional lives sometimes are over before they actually come out. Now people are feeling more safe. And like I said, that's the biggest contribution of this whole movement.
Yeah. I talk about
right
Dave Davies from the Kinks and his weird experiences.
Yeah.
In the book, and Dave's been fairly public with that, but even more public recently in the last couple years with the high strangeness events he's experienced.
Well, I was just talking about Yaphet's Kodo, who I had a Facebook friendship with and admired from a distance because I'm a huge Alien fan. People, he was in the first Alien movie. He came out a couple years ago on a Vice article about his alien abductions experience. And we had a guest on who was in a movie theater watching, I think it was Independence Day, and he turned around and Yaphet's Kodo was in that same movie theater, and Yaphet's Kodo goes, "It's real. They're real," to him. This is before he had came out with that article. I remember having that story on my show from this person, and then a couple years later, Yaphet's Kodo came out with it, and I talked to him on Messenger and Facebook, and he's like, "I just did that interview. I don't really want to do interviews live about it or talk about it anymore. I told my story and that's it." And I was like, I'd love to have Yaphet's Kodo on the show to talk about his experiences. But that's what's awesome is that you are getting people that look up to in the media, people that are feeling more open about it. And that's what we need. We're all pieces of the puzzle. We all have our experiences and they're all, like I said, a clue to maybe what's going on. And I'll say maybe for government disclosure, if they actually know everything that's going on, it might be too complicated for them to relay to people. There's so many facets to it. Who knows? I would like to know, let's talk about your childhood experiences, like your earliest experience you can think of that you had. Because I find those childhood memories to be the most purest in form of your experience.
Well, this would be back in my high school.
Or high school time even.
High school days. The 2 UFO sightings I had in the same week. The first was I'm going to talk about the second one before the first one.
Okay.
The second one was witnessed by my best friend Jim, who also appears as Zod in the book numerous occasions. We used to read the UFO trade press religiously and have discussions about it. But during the middle of a varsity basketball game one very cold night in western North Dakota, somebody came in and said, "There's a big-ass UFO over the edge of town." We all ran out there without our coats and stood around and watched it. It appeared to be a white oval-shaped object, maybe 30 feet in diameter, and it just hovered, didn't really move. I remember that it had structure. My friend Jim says, "I don't think it had structure. It was just some sort of oval shaped light that seemed to hover 30 feet over the ground." And one of my buddies that was out there with us said, "Let's get in my car and go see it." And I think I was the idiot that poo-pooed the idea. I said, this sighting took place the same week. There were a lot of UFO sightings in that part of the state that were actually being reported throughout western North Dakota on television and in the newspaper. So that was a pretty interesting first real UFO sighting. But a few days earlier, when I was walking through the park behind Jim's house, we were BMOCs, Big Men on Campus. We were on our way to a evening student council meeting because we were president and vice president respectively. And there was a large butte behind, it was called Rocky Butte Park, behind his parents' house. And we had to cross over the park to get to our high school. And this red orb, about the size of a of a ping pong ball came suddenly down from the top of the butte and hung in front of us at about 10 feet. It was soundless.
That's pretty close.
We felt like it was engaging us somehow, and we obviously were pretty shocked. We weren't frightened of it. I think we were too bewildered by it to feel any fear. And my friend says, "What the hell is that?" And we were good Catholic boys, and I immediately said, "Oh, it's the devil," because it's red and it's acting weird. It came out of nowhere, and excuse me, neither one of us has a good memory of it today because it was long ago of how it ended. We think the thing just dissipated into thin air, and we went.
But can I interject there a little bit?
Sure.
So you both have I know it's a long time ago, but you both have kind of a fuzzy memory of how it ended.
We don't remember it, and we've always threatened to maybe do hypnosis and explore that a little bit more. But I don't think we had any missing time or anything because we made it to the student council meeting on time. But it's odd that neither one of us remembers how it ended.
Yeah.
So, but I have to, fast forward here. And again, in chapter 3, I get into the story pretty richly. Those little red orbs appeared again in my house.
Yeah.
While I was doing research on the Greer article I was trying to write. I'd just come back from the International Association of New Science, which was a interesting organization headed by Dr. Maury Albert, who founded the Peace Corps, which is still going strong, and 2 other professors from the Colorado area. This event was in Fort Collins, and I went out there to interview different people that knew Greer, and including Brian O'Leary, who was slated for the Mars mission until it was scrubbed. And, just got their comments and insights as to how they perceive Greer and his CE5 initiative. And the whole thing, though, kind of struck me as a new age fair, and I was kind of turned off by it.
Right.
I told my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I said, I'm going to write this story and get the hell out of Dodge because it's just, there's too much weirdness here. And, all this stuff in the house, I don't know if it's related, but I'm going to get the story done, and that's it. Well, 4:03 the next morning, I woke up, and there were these 5 little red cherry bombs in the room, same size, ping pong ball shaped, 2 at the foot of the bed, another one, the third one off to the side, another one near the window, and the 5th one near my head. And that one really got my attention because it seemed to be inside and outside the room simultaneously. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. And I looked at the clock again to make sure I wasn't dreaming, and it was still 4:03. And now the ones at the foot of the bed are moving sequentially at the same rate, only in opposite directions. And then I blacked out. And couple hours later, I got up to take our dogs around the lake, and I had some fairly serious residual physical and mental reaction to this event that to this day, I'm still trying to figure out what it was. But my crown chakra would start, it was like a chilling effect.
Yes.
It was like when you have goosebumps. Well, I had goosebumps at the top of my head throughout the day, several times a day. I had no willpower. I had freelance writing work in front of me, and I could not work. I felt like my soul had been sucked out of me. And over the course of the next 2 days, both the crown chakra effect and the sort of physical or mental malaise all dissipated and went away. Excuse me. But I went on a search to try to establish what these things were, why they were in my bedroom, and in chapter, I believe it's 7, I'm out in the Arizona desert with Greer for the first Ambassadors to the Universe event with about 50 other people, and Dr. Richard Haynes from NASA Ames. Dick's done a lot of work with alleged abductees. He was a close, unpaid CSETI advisor for many years. He hypnotized me one night out in Arizona, and we explored that hypnotically, and there was a hell of a lot of hesitation and heavy breathing, labored breathing, avoidance, basically. So we moved on, and I've envisioned going under hypnosis again to look at this once more. But those are some of the things that were happening.
Can I ask you, do you feel trepidation about doing it? Because I've had my own experiences I'm still trying to figure out. And I have people who could do the hypnosis for me. Doing this show, I've met several, and I have a trepidation about doing it. I can't put my finger on why. And like I said, I've always felt like before I really started looking at this, I was wired not to even look at it, even though I've been into the whole paranormal alien realm. I've been interested in it ever since I can remember. But why I've looked away from these experiences for so long and wrote them off, I don't know. And now looking at them, and I know I could have an opportunity to do something like a hypnotic regression to look closer at my experiences, but there's a part of me that's don't touch it, don't do it. I don't know why.
I think it's human nature. I mean, at some point you don't, at least for me personally, I feel like, yeah, it'd be good to know what it was really about, what these things really were. Was it ET? Was it some, spiritual force? Was it a military staged hoaxed event? And there's several good books that have been written about that. I didn't want to read the books either, because I knew enough about psychotronic weapons that can induce different states of consciousness, kind of with the flick of a switch. And this technology's been off the shelf since the 50s at least.
Well, look at the Havana syndrome they keep reporting now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a psychotronic thing, but the question again is who's doing it and why are they doing it?
Right.
I think
so random.
I think they might be doing it just to prove that they can do it, to see if it's effective, and targeting groups like government officials who, might be a message to somebody. I mean, who knows? It could be political, it could be personal. There are rogue elements within our military that do things that probably they don't ever want them to see the light of day, and they're so weird that people aren't going to believe them out of the gate, even if they are in fact true.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just look at people are starting to go, with the drone strikes in Afghanistan that just happened that killed innocent people. People are realizing, well, our U.S. military did it, but then you find out about Halliburton. You find out we're contracting out the drone strikes, and we're working with these private industries, and we're fueling this. We're fueling this whole. I mean, it's exactly at Eisenhower's warning of military-industrial complex. And it's scary. It's scary. These things shouldn't be out of congressional oversight or, and these. I feel like we're making a deal with the devil when we're giving on so much away to these private entities.
Well, they create the technology and they own it with government. There's a million NDAs, where non-disclosure agreements, where you're never going to probably get to the truth of it, especially in the commercial realm. You might find some smoking gun documents in the archives and stuff like that, but it's, like I said earlier, I think that secrecy's been really set up very well, and the fact that it's in the private sector makes it almost impossible to bring the truth forward. That's why citizens groups like whether it's Greer's organization or your, local MUFON chapter, or all these private researchers through the years that have, painstakingly sent away for FOIA documents, the Black Vault, all of these groups and individuals. That's really important to keep that pressure on. And
that's exactly right. We have to keep demanding answers, or they'll shut up about it. We won't get in anything. They'd very much like to keep it a secret, I'm sure.
You have to be on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Jimmy Carter was basically told, supposedly, by then CIA Director George Bush. It's like, you might be the president, but you don't have a need to know.
Yeah.
And that, it tells you a lot.
I quote Danny Sheehan in the book a few times because I, in a kind of a accidental fashion, recruited him to the CSETI disclosure, the first disclosure effort, when I met him at a Nevada UFO event, I think the annual UFO Congress out in Laughlin. I was shocked to see him there because I had followed his work. For people who aren't familiar with him, Dan Sheehan is a public policy litigator who's worked on some of the most critical public affairs, public policy issues, from the Pentagon Papers to Wounded Knee to Karen Silkwood, Iran-Contra. Dan was the main litigator for our democracy, really, in that.
Yeah.
And here he is at a UFO conference. Well, it turns out he's had a lifelong interest in this. He wrote a classified paper for President Carter. And he was also, at one point, the legal counsel for the Jesuits. So he went to Rome quite a bit on business and had heard from reliable sources inside the Vatican that they had this wonderful archive, and could he get into it? And then everyone, all of his contacts there said, yes, it exists. No, you will never get in to read anything in there. So, Sheehan, and I quote him in the book, he says, he would never trust the government to disclose this topic because number one, they won't do it right, and number two, they're probably never going to disclose everything. So,
no, I mean, if you're talking that to keep it covered up, they had to commit crimes to do it.
Yep.
I mean, literally would have to commit crimes to do it. I'm not even talking about like murdering people or anything like that. I mean, but they still have to commit some crimes against law to cover this up, especially from Congress. People's names and lives are at stake. They're never going to come out with it. I honestly feel that one of the reasons it's controlled or secret, there's, of course, I think you mentioned in your book about the Majestic 12, that how that started. I think Stephen Greer makes a point of saying, and you talk with him about how Majestic 12 has turned into something else, like what was it, something CP40 or like a whole other new group.
PI40.
PI40, that's right. And I agree with Stephen Greer on that. I believe the best way to keep a secret like this. If it started with Majestic 12 and like people they picked to know this secret and in charge of it, and then it went into the private sector, I believe it's passed down through family members. The only way you could trust it is to, one father or mother gives it to the next son or daughter to take control of. There's a Steven Spielberg miniseries back in 2000 called Taken. And I really liked how Steven Spielberg presented because it followed three families, two abductee families. One actually was a half-breed, and the other family it followed was a family who were in the secrets. Like, it started out with a general, that worked his way up and controlled the whole UFO thing, and then he passed it down to his son passed it down to his daughter. It was all within the family. And that way, that secret never got out. And that's how they could pick successors to keep controlling it. I always wondered if that's one of the reasons of how it's controlled and kept secret, that this is like a family thing.
It sounds like a mob business model.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've used it.
I never got to watch the Taken series because I was too much into the child rearing years then. But I might have to go read.
You should. I highly recommend it. I own it on box set. That's how much I love that one. And I'll bring it up to people in the field and abductees, and like, I never even heard of it. I'm like, yeah, it aired once. And you'd have to find the box set of it to watch it. But it was Steven Spielberg taken. I always tell people to go watch it because I don't know. I also think that people in Hollywood are also influenced or given some information, might have some knowledge. I don't know, but I have a feeling they do. And if somebody did, it would be Steven Spielberg with his body of work, that he's done, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and this Taken series. I feel like, like I said, it follows generations of families, and I found the military aspect wasn't even out. They were outside the military. What I found funny is that later on, after their project kind of like fell apart, this secret UFO group, they were later on called by the government, by the few people who knew that they existed, the family members, to come back, and like their military records, everything is gone. There's no record of them. It's just only a few people in the government that actually know who they are, and they bring them back into the project and start a whole new investigation. And I was like, this is how it could work. So many people within our government have no idea about what's going on because it's outside the government, not just private sector, but like a mob-like thing, like within families that keep it secret. Even X-Files kind of covered that too, the way that they showed the smoking man and all that. I mean, he ended up being Fox Mulder's true father, and he's like trying to pass it down to him in a way. I mean, I feel like these things are hinted to, that it's families, secret families that control it.
You could be right. I have no way of proving it.
Right, I don't either.
But it's one of the reasons I say this in the book a couple of different times. One of the reasons I stuck so long in Greer's organization is I kept, I'm an college English major, and I love good literature and I love good stories. I heard so many great stories. This field is
oh, yeah.
deep and deeper on the narratives. The narratives don't end. I mean, one year there's this narrative that dominates, and then a week later there's a new narrative, and now there's the public official government disclosure narrative. I say in the Spaceman Club book, this is my kiss off to ufology. I'm done with it, but I don't think it's done with me. And
right.
I've had a couple of experiences in 2021 that just
really
underscores that. I don't know if we need to go into them, but
you kind of opened the can of worms on that, buddy. I'm gonna have to kind of want to know, because I mean, I find people's personal experiences fascinate me in this, because I'm still trying to, like I said, figure out my own, and we all hold pieces of puzzle of it. And that's why I encourage people to call in on this show, which we'll do after this commercial break coming up, to share their experiences, because like I said, that we're all the disclosure movement. We're all pieces of the puzzle trying to understand this. I find it fascinating. The whole glowing red orb. We talk about the orb phenomenon on this show quite a bit. I had Chad and Alta Dillard have a book called Orbducted, where they were taken by a large orb, but it started out small, and then it got big, and it is actually a ship, in a sense, that took them, but it looks like an orb. It can change sizes. Who knows what you saw, or isn't some kind of dimensional travel we don't understand, and they can be any size. I mean, or is it spiritual? I mean, from a paranormal sense, people look at your experience as, oh, those are your spirit guides, and they opened up your chakras. I don't know. I call this show Paranormal Soup for a reason, because I feel like we're all in this soup bowl of weirdness of Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, ghosts, chupacabra, dogman. There's some universal unknown metric here we don't know about that connects all these things in some way.
One of my favorite lines in the book, and it's from a British geneticist and evolutionary biologist, J.B.S. Haldane, and you probably heard this quote before. In 1927, he said, "The universe is not only queerer than we suppose, but queerer than we can suppose."
Right.
I mean, using queer back then the way we don't use we don't use it now, but it's. I think that nails it. I mean,
it does really.
Our science is limited in scope. Even our parapsychology, even the paranormal realm. There's so much that's undefined. We're just kind of blindly wading through this stuff.
Like I said, I'm not ever been a big fan of Stephen Greer, but one of the things I did admire of him, like in the 90s when I listened to his interview, is his idea that of contacting like using your thought and mind and this whole like kind of spiritual aspect to contact them. I think there's a good measure of evidence of that with people. I put up a kind of a wall though with anybody that goes down this aspect, because it reminds me of the Space Brothers of the 1950s.
Yes,
there was a lot of UFO groups like that, and there was a lot of con artists, and there are still a lot of con artists within this field. We have to admit it. I'm not saying Stephen Greer is. I've never said I think he's a con artist. There's just some things I think he should answer that people have asked questions about.
I spent a lot of time around Steve Greer as his PR guy. I shared a lot of confidences. I know how polarizing a figure he can be.
Yeah, he's very...
Early on in the book, I said, there are those who think he's the biggest guy who ever conned Western civilization, and then there are those who think he can walk on water, and the truth is usually
in the middle.
In those situations, in the middle, and or outside of both. Steve's probably one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. I think he has, and I look around the world of ufology then, and I look around the world of ufology now. I don't see anyone that's made the assessments or done the work that he's done.
Originally for Disclosure Movement, he was it.
Yeah, I mean, he had two separate disclosure ones. The first one I was involved in pretty heavily at the Westin Hotel in D.C., and then by the time he did his big one at the National Press Club, I had bounced out of CSETI a couple of years prior, but I followed the work because I was intrigued to see where it would go, and I couldn't keep devoting the time I was spending on that without payment. I was getting my expenses covered for travel and stuff like that, long distance calls and faxes, etc. But I wanted a paid gig in this world, and it wasn't going to happen. So I bounced out of there. But I think Greer's whole thing about consciousness is still it's still sound. It still holds.
Yeah,
up.
I agree with that. I'm a critic of Greer on a number of things I won't get into, but I have always admired his idea of consciousness and ability to contact alien life, because I believe look, you were going to Greer, you're who's talking about opening mind and consciousness, and then you have these red lights in your room. Yeah. Your mind and consciousness is there now, open to it again, and here you have this experience. That says something.
Yeah, well, and the timing on the release of my book has always kind of struck me as being very serendipitous, fortuitous, whatever you want to call it. But I worked on this book for 10 years, and there was a 2-year period where I didn't do anything on it. If I had, I would be playing catch up now. Like, hey, I wrote a book 8 years ago over here. My book came out, 2 weeks before this government dump of non-documents, and everyone goes, wow, great timing. And I went,
right?
Yeah, real interesting timing.
This is why it took 10 years. I was waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, maybe the boys upstairs, as I, chauvinistically refer to the, whatever this phenomenon is. I said, maybe the boys upstairs had a hand in this. I don't know. I did want to read something from Colonel John Alexander, who, in his book, UFOs, Myths, Conspiracies, and Realities, he makes an interesting comment about consciousness. He says, we agree that at times hard physical craft exists, but there is much more to the phenomena. Unfortunately, the true boundaries are unknown. It seems certain that human consciousness is at least part of the formula. Now, Alexander and Greer, if you got them in the same room, there might be a scuffle that would break out, but I think they would, they find common ground in the whole consciousness discussion. It's the same discussion that drew astronaut Ed Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut, who I in part also recruited to CSETI until they had a falling out many years later.
Yeah.
Over who, I don't know what. I mean, I get into it a little bit toward the end of the book, but it's the true final frontier. You can take your Elon Musk spaceships and Jeff Bezos and
Penis rocket.
Richard Branson's commercial racketeering. You can take all that space travel, but I think really the most exciting stuff is happening in the science of consciousness, and
Me too.
We're just
no, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, we're just beginning to understand how that works and how it ties into quantum physics and quantum entanglement, and so it's the true final frontier. Forget what they tell you on Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the experiments they did with like the God helmet or DMT, where people have experiences where they feel like they're communicating with some extraterrestrial entities under these conditions of, like I said, DMT or the I can't remember the inventor of the God helmet that it invokes through I believe, I'm trying to remember how it works, but basically gets the mind into a like kind of a hallucinogenic state without drugs or another consciousness state. And people have had like an abduction experience or an alien contact experience with that. Now that for the scientists, that explains it all. It's all in people's minds. For DMT, it's just hallucination. But there's something about consciousness and contact that I don't think we've quite even touched upon or understood yet.
And that's really the thrust of the Space Pen Club. I mean, that's the thrust of the book. That's why I named the book the Space Pen Club.
Yeah, I love that.
That was really at the heart of it's all about personal exploration, and I'm sure some of my college buddies were shocked to learn that I had applied it to the field of ufology.
But it should be applied. I 100% agree. The consciousness is the final frontier to me. We have so limited knowledge of how we even think and how consciousness works, the speed of thought. That to me, we can. I'm all, Star Trek. Let's explore space. Let's go to Mars. I'm all for that. But I feel like we shy away. We're not really going in deep to what's in here. It's not just even spiritually. It's just like, how does consciousness work?
Yeah.
How do people have afterlife experiences? All these things are totally fascinating. And I think there's a connection. People have near-death experiences that are very similar to people's experience with ET that should be looked upon. And there's so many factors here and that's why I said if the government knows, maybe it's too complicated for them to even present to the public.
Well, and it's hard to just say the government. The government
or they
a huge bureaucracy,
right?
And I think these, where this research and where the management of the information takes place, it's very siloed.
Look why Luis Elizondo quit. He quit the program because he felt like he was accomplishing nothing. We got to go to commercial break. But when we get back, I would like to touch upon like a couple of the experiences you've had in 2021, if you don't mind, if we get into that. But we'll also open up the phone lines and let anybody call in if they have questions or want to share their experiences. But we're going to go to commercial break, guys. We'll be right back, and we will open up the phone lines. Call in, join the conversation, tell us about your experiences. Like I said, we all are pieces of the puzzle with our experiences, and this is an open forum for you to talk about it, share your experiences, no judgment at all. All right, guys, we'll be right back after a short commercial break.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Can Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is $42. Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. endless question of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Martin Keller. He's the author of The Space Pen Club. I've been reading the book. I find it highly fascinating. His time spent with Stephen Greer, his personal experiences that he's had. They actually made it. I've been thinking during the commercial break about my one major UFO sighting, and I'd like to talk about comparison because he said him and his friend that saw it could not remember how it left, or it's kind of fuzzy. And yes, time does that, but my UFO experience, the people who witnessed it with me, only one truly remembered it. The other ones, as time went on, just totally like, what are you talking about it? Like it was erased from their minds, even though they were there. And I have one person else that remembers it. It's like it was gone eventually. And even the next day, they were a bit fuzzy on it. So I've always wondered about this aspect of some people can remember seeing these scenes, and some people seem to, it slips from their mind from time. Like they're wired not to remember it. Like I was wired not to think about my experiences. If you've had experiences like that, call in the show. I'd love to hear about it. Have you had an experience that was totally out there, like a huge UFO, and then it seems fuzzy afterwards? I did. I did. The major UFO I had, I can't forget it, but it was like it was hard to keep that image in my mind at the time. It's a weird experience, of course, not just seeing a UFO, but the way it made me feel and see. So I really find that aspect of his experience very interesting. But the phone lines are open, guys. Call in the show. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging in there with me, Martin. Like I was just saying, I had one major UFO sighting, it was definitely a ship in the sky. I was 16, and I saw it out above our city, like 500-600 feet up in the air. And it was huge. It was like the scene out of Star Wars, because something gave me a feeling. I looked up, and I think my other friends looked up at the same time, because I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. We all just stood with our jaws dropped open as this thing came up over our heads in downtown Michigan City, where I live, and just flowed down silently down Michigan City. No lights. It was like a cylindrical object, but had a lot of these like square shapes on the bottom of it, but no lights. And it was silent. It was huge. It went just right down Michigan City and just kept on going. And we all kind of stopped and we're like, what was that? Wow, that's crazy. We just saw a UFO. And then we went home. And then the next day at school, I remember one of them like, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, we did see something weird. Like, no, we saw something crazy. But I felt at the time like my head was buzzing when I saw it. Like it was hard to hold on to the image of what I was seeing. And as a few years later, a couple of those witnesses that were there, totally it's gone from their mind. Like it never happened. Only one do I know is like, yeah, I do remember that. So I found it. I was thinking about that during commercial break about your experience and your friend. I know it's been a long time, but the fact that you both find it hard to recall how it left or what happened, it's very similar to my experience.
Well, you're in the club, Jason. Welcome to the club.
The Space Pen Club. I would totally join that club. Not for the recreational drugs either.
There's a lot of people in the club, and they don't want to admit membership. Some of them.
I'd be a proud member. Because as you saw, I played one of my favorite movies is Altered States. You know, I always love the idea of exploring man's consciousness. You know, I just hope not to have to use heavy hallucinogenic drugs to do it. I've had bad experiences along that realm. I don't ever want to re-experience. But I find the final frontier is the consciousness, and one of the most interesting facets of the human condition is our mind and our thoughts and our experiences.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, people see things all the time, and I don't know if you recall, but the one Navy pilot that was featured on 60 Minutes, he said they were seeing these things out over the Atlantic on a daily basis. I mean, that's just a mind blower to have that kind of information now into the larger discussion.
And that's been kept quiet that long, that so many of these people have witnessed it or seen it. I mean, Terry Lovelace, we had on as an abductee. I mean, he's had a lot of experiences, but before his major incident Devil's Den experience, he was on a base that had, a nuclear base, and they had this huge diamond UFO show up, and he said tons of soldiers were out. Everybody was looking up at it, so you got a ton of witnesses, but none of those people talked.
Yeah, well, they can't. They don't want to lose their stripes or their military pensions if they're lifers. I get into the Minot Air Force Base,
right?
Then in '68, pretty heavily. A friend of mine, Tom Talene, who's a well-respected researcher, he did a hell of a job researching the whole Minot incident, where a large object was spotted not just on the ground, but by one of the bombers that was doing its nightly run.
Yeah.
They could see this thing over their base. The object not only spooked everyone on the ground, but they sorry, I had to turn up my mic here. The object also apparently was able to move a 20-ton block off the missile silo and scrambled the launch codes. I mean, this is fairly common.
Maelstrom?
No, Minot.
Minot. Oh, no, okay, yeah, I get those two confused. Yes, Minot.
I go into pretty good detail on that. There's a whole website where you can read Tom's research. Just Google Minot Air Force Base 68, Tom Talene, and it'll come up. It's a great read. It was thoroughly researched and annotated. A lot of witnesses came forward to talk to him. So there's that incident. That part of that research was also showed up in the Peter Jennings ABC special. I forget the year on that, early 2000s, but
yeah, I remember it though.
Yeah, so it's withstood the test of time, and it's very similar to what happened in Maelstrom and some of the other places. I mean, I think Robert, what's his name, Hastings,
yes,
has written a well-researched book on different other incursions at mostly nuclear sites, which is interesting because the RAND study that came out was written in the 60s and not released until the early 90s. Actually says, a lot of the verifiable sightings have been around atomic installations, and there's probably good reason for that. Our atomic weapons aren't just a threat to us and the planet. I think they're a threat to the boys upstairs and to the fabric of space itself.
Right. I mean, we don't know what it could be doing. Some people theorize the whole, we opened a portal with the atomic bomb. We brought something into this universe with it. I mean, I don't know about that, but I mean, it does seem like all the major UFO waves and activity really took off after, the first atomic bomb.
Yep. I think that's really the dawn of ufology. And
I mean, Roswell was so close to the first airborne group for a nuclear weapon, or atomic weapon. So I mean, that says a lot right there. I mean, I always found like the Maelstrom incident. There was an incident in Russia where they shut in a Maelstrom. They shut the missiles down, which were all independently, basically configured. Like you would have to independently go and do each. They're not like networked together. What I found interesting about Maelstrom is that it was able to shut all these missiles down that were not networked together. So it's not like it's some like kind of hack, and they could do. This is 1975. Isn't the time of hackers doing this kind of stuff. It wasn't like computer network or internet to do that. Whatever did this was able to somehow physically shut these systems down, each individually. And I mean, that had to get the attention of the military.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's
what major threat?
these things are obviously highly technologically advanced, and it's no contest. I think that's another reason why there's so much secrecy, is that we're defenseless against the capabilities of these objects and the alleged occupants. There may not be occupants. It may be AI, some sort of artificial intelligence machine, hybrid styled intelligence that's doing some of the surveillance and some of the
I always find the AI theory very interesting, because I mean, you talk about some of the speculations of us traveling in space is that it'd be too hard for humans to actually travel distances of space. There's so many conditions and radiation, things that could really screw us up, and just trying to survive food wise, keeping the human body alive in space on a long trip could be very difficult. But you could send robots, you could send AI easily, right?
Yeah.
And who's to say other alien species haven't done that? And some of the descriptions of abductions and that do seem, they have like kind of a robotic sense to them sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah, so it does make you wonder. I think possibility is that we are interacting with some things that are AI or artificial, like the Greys that people talk about. But I think there's physical aliens here. But I mean, they have a lot of, like, Star Trek had data. They have, they have the if they're able to get travel here, they have the ability to create artificial life forms, I'm sure too, to do a lot of their work.
Yeah. Well, the same Rand report also said that given the possible number of civilizations in this galaxy alone, a highly advanced one, even 1,000 years beyond our knowledge base currently, they've obviously figured out a way to traverse space without actually traveling through it, whether it's wormholes or some sort of technologically assisted methodology using consciousness or whatever. But they've obviously figured out the way to get here from there.
I mean, I'm a Star Trek fan. One of my favorite Next Generation episodes is called Schisms. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but in the episode, members of the crew are, like, basically having weird, like, abduction experiences in the episode. I always felt like this was Star Trek's, like, shout out to people who are experiencing abduction phenomenon, actually. But like Riker, like, he thinks he's going to sleep, and somebody wakes him up. And he's like, I've just went to sleep, but he had been, he missed hours of time. Well, they find out these aliens are, like, taking them through a portal into another dimension and experimenting on them. They didn't have to travel in a ship to get to them. They just opened up a portal. And I always thought, as a kid, when I saw that, I found that so fascinating. And I was always interested in alien abduction. That is this a possibility that, maybe they're not even traveling here in ships, even though people are seeing UFOs and all that. But the abduction phenomenon could be something, interdimensional, interconsciousness wise. I mean, the movie K-Pax, the notorious Kevin Spacey movie, where the alien consciousness just jumps into another person's body, and that's how they travel.
Yeah.
There's so many facets. We always think of aliens' advancement on the idea of advanced technology, but if with advanced years and technology, you also might become advanced spiritualism, or a better understanding of what the afterlife is, or remote viewing or consciousness that we are just touching the tip of the iceberg of right now.
I think John Mack, the esteemed researcher from Harvard, who almost lost his position and his tenure because of his so-called abduction research and hypnotic regressions with different subjects he studied. I think toward the end of his life, he was actually exploring that very thought that, this may not be a sort of physical event, but it's some sort of interdimensional episode that takes place, inside your head. And you have all the physical sensations, you have all the visual imagery, but it's really happening on the big screen inside your consciousness between your ears, and there's no actual abduction onto a spaceship. It's all taking place somehow up in your cranium, in the wider cosmic consciousness.
Right. Well, cosmic consciousness, the soul. You know, if you looked at it from a spiritual side, is it them taking our soul out of our body? You know, I mean, you've had people, you know, report saying the name of Jesus and these things leaving them alone. You know, I think consciousness in this. I'm not saying perceiving that they're demons, as people would say, or something like that. But the idea that somebody can have a firm belief in something and push these things away or stop the experience could lead to the idea that consciousness is in some way a big factor of this, or is the control mechanism for this experience.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now
I've read those accounts. I put them in the tinfoil file, as I call it in the book.
You know, like I said, I gather everybody's experiences. Yes, I know people can be untruthful, but I think a lot of people come out. You know, you have no reason to not, you know, take in their experience. They have nothing to gain by telling you it. I mean, I have people call on this show and tell me their experiences. It can sound completely crazy to other people, but I believe them because they have no reason to call in here. They're gaining nothing by telling their experience.
Right.
They're just telling their experience, and that's why I do this show. Speaking of that, we do have somebody on the phone. We got Zach on the line. He always has great questions. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I am feeling better, brother, and I feel
Good.
so much alive. I'm smoking cigars again.
Hey, take it easy on the cigars. Take it easy on the cigars, man. You're just out of it. Couldn't wait.
It's a reason to celebrate. It's a reason to
I
celebrate.
know.
So.
I'm glad you're feeling better, though. Thank God.
Yeah, I just have one question tonight, and then I'll share one of my experiences that I had. Hey, Martin, it's very nice to meet you, sir.
How you doing, Zach?
So, feeling pretty good. So my question goes back really to the whole UFO disclosure movement that we've been seeing in the media lately. Anywhere where the U.S. government is involved, there's evidence from past events and all that. The U.S. government and the various different intelligence agencies, they will always take something and push a narrative that really serves whatever agenda that they have. So my question to you is, based on some of the stories that you have collected over the years, have you found any evidence that the U.S. government, or really any government in the world, is involved in perpetuating this UFO sighting phenomena? Why or why not?
I'm trying to make sure I understand your question correctly. Are you asking, are they deliberately feeding a false and or true narrative about the subject?
Well, like, say, for example, if there's a sighting, whatever it might be, and there's maybe some evidence which links it over to, like, secret government technology or something like that. It goes along those lines.
Well, I think, historically, the CIA used UFO reports to kind of camouflage or keep secret the stealth aircraft they were testing.
True.
They played it both ways, which is a smart way to do it.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these UFO sightings may in fact be government stuff. I mean, we've apparently had anti-gravity craft since the 50s. And now I've been reading a lot about these alien reproductive vehicles. Is that the right thing? There's an acronym for it that it escapes me, but they look just like the real thing, but they're actually ours, and apparently
like a MyLab, basically.
Yeah, apparently reverse engineered, and they're used for whatever purposes. But
yeah,
I think whoever manages the information, whatever agency or agencies do, they've done a good job of covering it up by going back to the Robertson panel from the 50s, which established a platform, ridicule the witnesses and deny their experience. It's been very effective. But luckily, we've had people like the Whitley Strieber's of the world and others who have come forward and, written books about it. And good movies have been made about it. So it's they can't keep their arms around it forever.
I think that's totally true. I think they've lost that kind of narrative of silencing people with the internet and with books and people coming out. That they can't do that kind of game anymore. They have to invent something new to control the narrative. And what I said, Zach, what I was thinking about when you're bringing this up is the point I made about disclosure is when the report came out, it's like, we don't know what they are. We're looking into it. Give us more money. I mean, but what better way to get defense contracts up than an alien threat? You're really going to need some high, all the advanced technology and a lot of money to throw at this.
Yeah, they asked for money twice on page 6 and 7
Yes.
of a 9-page report.
Yes, that was my point.
It's
That was
like,
my
hey,
point.
wait a minute, guys. What about the black budget? I thought you had, literally billions of dollars at your disposal there. I guess you haven't been read into that program properly.
Well, we even had a DoD secret space program that was admitted to that we gave more money to. They got more money than NASA under black budget. So, I mean, but here they are asking for more money. That's what honestly, my take on the whole UFO report was like, we don't know what they are. We're looking into it. Give us more money. That's just how I felt about it. All right, Zach, you said you had an experience you wanted to talk about too.
Yes, I will talk about one of my experiences on this. So this happened it was September 2009. And I remember one night I was walking out in my backyard and I look west and I see a military jet and it's flying very low. And I'm thinking to myself, why is this jet so far from Luke Air Force Base? Because I live in Maricopa County, Arizona. I live in Mesa, which is on the east side, and Luke Air Force Base is all the way on the west side of Phoenix. And I'm like, well, this is really weird. It's flying really low, and it's way far from the Air Force Base. But anyway, all of a sudden, right behind the jet, I see a series of white flashing lights from behind it. And then off of the distance, I could see another object, but it was just a series of flashing lights. And granted, when one of the objects would flash, it'd go dark, and then the other one would flash along with it. Well, one of them was chasing the jet around my house. It makes a 160-degree turn, and the entire time, the object that's chasing the jet, it would flash, and off in the distance, another one would flash. And then finally, when it made that 160 turn, all of a sudden the one object that was chasing the jet just shot up. It was just bright flash, and it was gone.
Wow. And
then the jet made its way back west. And I had a whole series of events going on in 2009. I've talked about it before on Jason's show.
So Zach, I have to ask you. So this was around the events of like the Aryan person in your room. Was it around that time when it touched you on the back? Wow.
It was that was actually the first series of events that happened. This was the last one that happened. And throughout that summer, I'd see what would look like to be like a silver sphere up in the sky. At one point, there was a light that emitted from it. It covered up the entire vessel, and then it just vanished right in thin air. And this was around 5-6 o'clock in the late afternoon. While I was driving my brother to karate practice. I'm like, what the heck is that in the sky? And then, of course, I had my other close encounter experience, which I've talked to you about, Jason, before.
Yeah.
But then the incident that I described afterwards, it happened after that, and that was the last event that happened throughout that whole series.
Yeah, it's really weird. Well, thank you, Zach, for calling in and with your questions, and that always more unfolds about your experience that I'm always interested in hearing. And that sighting alone sounds amazing.
I know, and I'm still I have them now and then too. Actually, one time actually while I was watching Jamie and Rob's show on a Wednesday, I remember looking east actually in my backyard, and I remember seeing just like a bright flashing light, and then this one object. I couldn't get a good description of it because I didn't have my glasses on at the time, but I would see it. It would move to the left, it would flash again, and it's like every time that it got a certain distance away, it would just flash. And yeah, so
we all need
living
to.
out in the desert. You see different things.
So yeah. Everybody, what everybody needs to do. Me and my wife were doing this a lot during the lockdown period. We'd go outside and just look up the sky for UFOs, especially after a show. She didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to go to work. Nobody was working. And after a show on UFOs, I think there was one, I remember who, we went outside and we're like, let's see if we can see a UFO. Everybody after the show, when we do a UFO show, go outside for a few minutes. Just look at the sky. Maybe your conscious perception or thinking about it, you'll see something. Maybe something will happen. It's like, if you open yourself up to this, maybe you will have an experience. I don't know. I do believe there's a conscious factor to this, for some people. And some people claim they can summon UFOs. I don't know. Well, Zach, thank you for calling in, bud.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Martin, for answering my question, man. I love hearing everything that you're saying.
Thank you, sir.
But yeah, people have these experiences like Zach, and they see these things happen, and so many other people don't. They don't have the experience. They don't think about aliens, but it does seem like sometimes when people get open to this topic, then they have an experience. Like there is a conscious factor to this. Like you have to open yourself up to the idea. I've had stories of people who witness UFOs, but they're with people who don't see what they're seeing up in the sky. It's like only they can perceive it, and the other people there can't. That's consciousness right there. Their consciousness can perceive the UFO while the person standing next to them can't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've often wondered about that, and my rock and roll friend Curtis A., who's profiled in the book, had a very dramatic abduction experience in Wisconsin that he still talks about to this date, even though it happened, decades ago.
Yeah.
He has a theory about that there, some people are actually intuitively tuned into this and have the perceptive ability to see these, or at least recognize this phenomena when it occurs or manifests, whereas other people may not have that ability, or they are denying it for whatever reason.
I like I said, my one major UFO experience. I mean, I had an experience that I really didn't look at a UFO at the time, where I saw a big bright light out in the woods, but that actually seeing a ship and seeing it physically there felt like it was trying to erase it from my memory. I just wouldn't let it go. But for my friends who weren't into it like I was, it was like it faded from their mind, from their memory. Like they couldn't keep it. They did for a little bit, and then a couple years later when I bring it up, it's like they don't even remember it happened.
Well, on the other hand, some people just don't want to deal with.
That's true.
They don't want to push the boundary out any further than it already is. So.
But I honestly felt like they were being honest, that they were like, oh, this sounds familiar. I don't really remember. I'm like, how could you not remember a big ship like that flying over Michigan City? But it's like, I kind of remember. What are you? They're like, I could see them like searching their memory. Like I felt they were being honest. They weren't trying to deny it. And so I didn't push it any further. But I almost felt like it was erased from their minds. And or it's something that they're wired not to think about it. I even have that experience from my own experiences that I just looked away from, that I'm now really looking at deeply over the last year or so, a couple of years now. And like I said, I don't have any further answers on my experience. I don't know what I've been experiencing. I don't call myself an alien abductee of any kind. I haven't had the tremendous experiences like my friend Terry Lovelace has, but I've had some experiences that make me question, have I had contact? Have I had an experience, beyond just seeing that one UFO? And I've definitely been open to it ever since I was a kid. You can ask anybody that's ever known me. I was the weird kid in grade school. I was called the mad scientist. I drew spaceships, and I was totally into the whole alien thing. When I was like 10 years old, I read Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods. My mom had a copy of it. I'm like, ooh, what's this? And I grew up in a very open household, so I've been a believer of ancient aliens before there was an Ancient Aliens TV show. What's your thoughts on the whole ancient aliens idea too in this? I mean, we talk about all the modern sightings and that, but I feel like there's a huge historical basis of sightings when you go back, all kinds of records. You talk about tribes in Africa that describe people from the stars coming. Right. I'm Cherokee Indian. The Cherokees believe they came from star people. There's a lot of historical aspects that are Ancient Aliens makes a whole 12 or 13 seasons out of. I don't say that they don't like they get a lot of stuff wrong. I will say that about Ancient Aliens. They really stretch things sometimes, but I still love the show because it does promote an idea that I've always been fascinated in.
Yeah, there's a whole chapter in my book called about. I got to look up the name of the chapter. Star Nations and the UFO Ghetto, live on the Res. It's
nice.
It's about the first Star Knowledge Conference that the Lakota medicine man Standing Elk, along with some UFO researchers like blanking, Richard Boylan and some other folks. Anyway, they assembled a pretty heavy duty lineup of native folks, along with, Whitley Strieber was there, John Mack was there, I was there to, Greer couldn't make that event, so he wanted me to deliver his speech, which I thought I did a very poor job of it, and then did the sky search later that night. But, the Star Knowledge events are still taking place, and the First Nations people apparently have quite a bit of understanding about this topic.
Yeah.
The odd thing is, and this is probably one of the strangest things that I've ever experienced, is on the way out to this event, driving through South Dakota. The event was in South Dakota, in Yankton, South Dakota. And I was driving out there with a friend of mine, Kevin, who was riding shotgun, and about 90 minutes away from that, in the middle of the day, we saw a UFA, an unidentified flying arrow. This chalk-like arrow appeared in the sky, pointing in the direction we were going to the first Star Knowledge Conference, and it blew our minds. I almost went off the road. We had two really great cameras on board and a video camera, and we neglected to document it, but we both saw it, and we both kind of, to this day, always when we talk, we always go, man, what about that flying arrow? But the second day of the conference, there was a drumming and chanting exercise out on the front lawn of this high school where the conference was being held, and people were sitting in a circle, and a chalk-like circle appeared over the group, and Kevin saw it. I did not see it. He came into the building. He says, "You got to come out here and see this." And at that point, everyone was trying to get outside. Well, I could not get through the crush of people in the doorways there. And by the time I got out there, the thing had disappeared, but everybody was talking about it. So it's we live in a fascinating world. There's much we don't know about many things, whether they're ancient or modern. And, I'm most days pretty grateful for the experiences I've had. But again, why me and what's it about, and why you and what's it about?
Right. Why Whitley Strieber? Why my friend Terry Lovelace? These are the ultimate questions. I don't know if the answer is going to be 42, but we have the right. My main point is: are we asking the right questions on this? I don't know, but the why me? I think it's for everybody's had this experience. Why did I have this experience? I don't know. There's so many factors. We've had. You look at. I saw you mention in the book like Edgar Casey. Your fascination with him. I've had that same fascination. If you go down the rabbit hole of Edgar Casey, we're talking about past lives and universal consciousness, or huge factors that could really play into this whole phenomenon. It'd been nice to know what Edgar Casey would have said about UFO abductions, and too bad nobody back then was asking him those questions.
Yeah, there's not a lot in the Casey materials
Yeah.
we've seen that indicate. I mean, he does make some cryptic allusions to other life in the universe that between humans and the angelic and godly sphere, God level. It's hard to know, though. I mean, but then you look at the Vedas. There's a lot of information there about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
The flying phenomena, Vimana, or you say
Yeah.
it. I mean, the wars that took place back in our past, and you look at like actual places that look like they were actually hit by a nuclear bomb in our ancient past. It makes you wonder, we really know our true history and how much. The thing is, like when you get to the nuclear aspect of aliens' interest in that, to me that could be a key indicator that they've been here, they've always been here, they're living here. And the main concern they have is that they don't want you to destroy their home either. They're living here in some secret way, either under the oceans or under the earth or on the moon, which I'm a big fan of that theory. I've always been fascinated by the moon and some experiences I've had. I always point to the Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and he just passed away, Michael Collins, the press conference after they came back from the moon landing. Because I was just talking about this with Josh Turner of Paranormal Roundtable. He kind of was like, I have an opinion maybe the moon landing never happened, and I'm like, I get that. I get why people go down that rabbit hole. I'm one of the people's opinion that I believe the moon landing happened. I believe we went there, and I believe we saw a lot of incredible things these men could not talk about, and that's why you see them in that press conference looking like. They look horrible. They look like like they just have the worst, saddest news just delivered to them, even though they just did the most incredible thing in human history.
Yeah, I think the astronauts all probably had sightings of the early Mercury program. I think most of those guys had some sort of experience, and then you get to the Apollo program with Ed Mitchell, who had this cosmic epiphany coming back to Earth, feeling that not only was the universe alive, but that everything was interconnected, and it inspired him to create the Noetic Foundation out in the Bay Area, which studies consciousness and delves deeply into subjects like this. And
what I pointed out to my friend was look at what Neil Armstrong did with his life after the moon landing. He got very interested in ancient civilizations. He traveled around the world, and with this interest. And I've always wondered, is that because of what he saw on the moon? If you saw that there were structures on the moon or alien evidence of life there or past life, your next question would be like, what do we know about our actual ancient past? And the moon's ancient; it's been here for a long time. And if you find, one of my favorites is the robot head that people think they see in a crater, maybe. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many. The whole moon landing and the photos and evidence from satellite imagery of the moon, and all the evidence that there's something there on the moon. That there's a lot of different things. If these guys saw this, then they would know. Okay, our ancient past is not what we knew of. And like I said, Neil Armstrong spent a lot of time in this area looking at ancient civilizations. So I always wondered if, that fascination of his was brought on by what he saw on the moon.
Hard to know.
I mean, Buzz Aldrin's the last one left, still with us. And he punched a guy when he told him told him that he's like, yeah, moon landings were fake, and Buzz Aldrin punched him. It was John. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually met Buzz Aldrin about a week before he did that. He was at a
really.
Yeah, he was. It's little stories in the book along with Buzz's photo that I got from NASA as a kid. He was at a gala that I was doing public relations for, and Corso's book had just come out, and of course I read every word of it very quickly, and I had a moment during the cocktail hour prior to the big event, and I saw Buzz sitting by himself, so I went over and I introduced myself. I said, yeah, I'm doing the media relations for this event, and I'm glad you're here. And I said, oh, by the way, I just read this book about Corso by Philip Corso, who was highly decorated during World War II. He says basically that the whole UFO discussion is real, and that all the assets now lie in the private sector, that all this technology was seeded into private enterprise. Corporations now own the patents on it. And what do you think of that? And Buzz gave me a deep look. He looked into my eyes and he said, "Son, I don't know anything about that." And what I really heard him say was, "Don't ever ask me a question like that again." And then a week later, I read the news account of him slugging somebody who said the moon landings were fake. They went, "Oh boy, I'm glad I didn't get slugged at this tuxedo attire event."
Well, I mean, if he had to have signed a non-disclosure agreement because of what he saw, and they couldn't talk about it, and he was military, he's going to respect something like that, I would guess, and hold that, I guess, to his chest for the rest of his life. That'd be pretty serious. That'd be pretty heavy secret to keep. What was brought up to me, we were having this conversation with Josh Turner, was that he was talking about the video of Buzz Aldrin doing this interview with this little girl who was asking these questions. I got somebody trying to call in. If it's D, I see you said you've been trying to call in. I'm trying to take your call. It won't, for some reason, won't. Let me try it on this line. See if hopefully we got there. Hold on. See, they keep hanging up. Try again. I will try to take your call. But anyways, Buzz Aldrin, is like this little girl's like interviewing him. She could have been like 8 or 9 or 10. I don't know. And a lot of people talk about this video as like, oh, it's proof that he's saying that the moon landings never happened. That's what Josh Turner was kind of saying, that, because she asked him, why did we not go back? And his answer goes, well, or what does he say? He said something along the lines like, well, I think we know why we didn't go back, or something along the lines. He said something kind of cryptic that made a lot of people think he's talking about that we never went. But I looked at it when I first saw it as him saying we didn't go back because we weren't allowed to. Like, there's something else there.
Yeah, I've heard that discussion that we were warned off the moon.
Yeah,
you've had your look-see, now go away and don't come back. But I just read the other day where they're planning to go back, and the Chinese are aggressively going to the moon.
Israel tried to land a probe and it didn't happen. It crashed.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's been some. I mean, now China says they have a rover on our moon. But there's people out there saying it's fake. They're showing fake stuff. That's not the moon. They're always going to be those people. I don't know. Maybe they are faking. I don't know. But if China's going, and if there's something there, then damn straight we're going to get our butts back up there if we're not already there.
Well, there's probably a lot of minerals to be mined up there.
Oh yeah, I mean, they found oxygen in the moon dust, and then in one of the famous craters from the first Apollo mission, you could see like the red orangish dirt of the moon.
Yeah.
Means there's
water
oxygen there.
Water on the moon, which no one ever thought we'd admit to. That I remember Carl Sagan saying, it's a lifeless satellite of the Earth. It has no bearings of life, and not that long ago they found water up there. So
right. Where there could be life. I'm one of those people I think, I have a speculation that the moon might be artificial in sense. I mean, there's so many, the moon's one of the biggest mysteries up in the sky, in my opinion. And I mean, maybe it's the Star Wars in me that thinks it's like a Death Star up there or something, but it could be official. Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Isn't China making some mile-long spacecraft?
Yeah, that just came out recently. They're working on building a huge space. China says a lot, though. They said a lot.
Of the Enterprise, yeah.
Yeah, they say a lot. I mean, you got Gary McKenna's whole NASA hack, where he claims we have a secret space force out there, and now we have an actual space force. It's like totally looks like Star Trek uniforms now that they're going to put on these guys. There is a push in space. I mean, that's where the next war will probably be fought. Will be in space. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next several years or decades what will happen in space. You got private industry, you got the militaries from different countries going up there. It's the Wild West up there. What are the laws? What are the controls? What's going to happen up there? And what if China gets to the moon and they go, oh, look, America lied, about either landing there or lied about the aliens that are there, and China gets to be the first to come out about it. I don't know. Only time will tell.
Well, the father of the space program
Werner von Braun.
Yeah, von Braun warned that the ET thing would be modeled as a threat when the time was right. So I know a lot of people like Dr. Greer have come out recently with this alleged government move toward disclosure and said this is a fake disclosure. It's setting up a threat so that we can continue the status quo with these absurd amount of monies in the defense budget.
I can't disagree with Greer on that. It's basically the
Yeah.
same premise of what I've been saying. I totally don't disagree with him on that at all. I'm totally right on the same page as Greer on that one.
The war profiteers need a new enemy, and what better enemy than one from space?
I'm one of those people, and I don't get into big conspiracy theories on their shows, like when it gets into this kind of stuff. But I believe they manufacture terrorist groups, and they will do whatever they can to put fear into societies to get their money. You don't get your military budget without a threat, and what bigger threat than alien? I mean, that's going to pump some money.
I know Leslie Kean, who's done a lot of great work. She wrote the
New York Times,
early New York Times stories with Ralph Blumenthal and one other person. I've followed her work for a long time. I've actually had a few different encounters with her that are recollected in the Spaceman Club book. She's been kind of hinting at, based on her sources, inside the military and the things that Lou Elizondo has shared with her in private conversation, is the only way we can advance a disclosure is to present it as a threat so that there's funding for this office.
Yeah.
And I said, fair enough, but that's, at the end of the day, I think that's a no-win situation for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it is if you make it a threat and it's not. I mean, if that's what I've seen. If they are a threat, we're screwed. I mean, it's seriously. I mean, I don't care how much money you throw at the military, it ain't going to get the job done. They can shut down our nuclear weapons. I want to see if we can get this phone call before we go to commercial break, because I keep trying to get it. I think it's D. Are you there, D? Is that you? 856 area code? 856 area code. I got you on the line. You there? Says I got signal. Says she's there. Says it's good, but we don't hear her. And this happens with D sometimes. I don't know why. All right, let me hang up with that and try to take the call here. Let me see if I can take it here. Accept. All right. Just called in. Who do we got?
Yes, it's me, all right.
Oh, there we go. I have to. It's like weird. I pick you up on one line or try calling you on the other line, and I can't hear you. If I pick you up on this line, I can. How you doing tonight, D?
Oh, hanging in. I'm just been depressed with everything, but we'll just forego about that stuff because it'll get my...
Yeah, we got 5 minutes till
running.
commercial break, so try to make it quick.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I got your call.
I wanted to know if the video I sent to you and Jamie, if you would like to share it to the little guy that's below Rob, whatever what his name is. It's a video of 3 little dots in the sky, and they're the size of a triangle. And it's my friend Lenny. I asked him if he could share it, and I don't know where at New Jersey lives at, but he won't tell me. He's afraid I might show up at his door. But anyway, when he shared it, him and his wife were outside looking up in the sky, and there was no clouds or anything. It was really bright, and you could see it was like an orange glow, and then the lights disappeared, and then it came back over again. A few people think it's his lantern lights. It's not a lantern light. I know it's a UFO, but I shared it to video, but the video he sent to me has no noise. You just see the video.
I have a couple links that you sent me on Messenger. Was it the Streaming Magic was live? Is it that one? Or is it the one about...
It says the UFO. That was my latest one.
Yeah, it's not... Huh, I don't see
And I
it.
shared it. What I'll do is I'll reshare it to you, okay?
You can always share it in the Paranormal Soup. By the way, people, I always forget to mention, there is a Paranormal Facebook group and page. There's a page for the Paranormal Soup show on Facebook, but there's also a group. If you ever want, send it in. I let most people in. It's an open group, public group. You can always share it in there, too. I think you're in that group, aren't you, Dee?
I have it, Jason. I'm sending it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jamie. It's on my Facebook. It's really hard where you can share it like on Messenger to any groups because it won't work for me.
Okay. All right. Well, take a look at it. Yeah, because I didn't see it in my Messenger, but Jamie says she's got it and sent it to me. So I'll take a look at it, Dee, see if we can share it. Yeah,
I've
go ahead,
actually
Jamie.
been seeing these type of planes. We're by an airport flying by like that where they do look like the triangle shape like this. And so I have seen some actual military planes like that, but we'll see what Jason says.
Yeah.
I'm no expert. I can make, I could be, I don't know what it is either. I mean, I'm not an expert video analysis person, but I'll do my best. Take a look at it and see what what it might be. But yeah, a lot of times people, don't. Military planes can sometimes have different lights on them. They always have to have the FAA lights, the green and red blinking lights on them. That's always your clue.
They just stayed there, and they weren't like moving.
So it's like hovering. And I know you say it's not Chinese lanterns. I've seen a lot of people get fooled by Chinese lanterns. I will tell you, Dee. I've had a lot of people send me stuff that is Chinese lanterns. It does happen, but I'm not saying that's what they saw. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah. Okay. I thank you very, 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 very much.
No, thank you, Dee.
And you guys have a great night. And I pray to get to my doctor's this week.
All right. You take care of yourself, Dee.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye, James. Bye, Rob. And bye, Frank.
Martin.
Have a good night, Jason. Bye.
When I do look at it, though, I notice that you can see the clouds behind it, so it does look like it's kind of hanging a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that Chinese lantern will do that. And we got drones. I mean, I just saw a recent UFO piece or footage. Somebody says, I'm like, that looks like that could be a drone flying around. I don't know. It's hard to tell anymore. I mean, we're definitely in the land of illusion, I mean, with CGI and drones and all kinds of things people can mistake as UFOs. I just had, Martin, I don't know if you saw my World Wide Web of Weird segment. A 12-year-old boy was all excited because he thought he got a UFO, and I really can tell it's like a reflection in the window that he's shooting out of. Yeah.
The Starlink satellites, too, are causing a lot.
Yeah, big time. But did you see... Oh, go ahead.
My brother from Florida called me a couple months ago all excited, like...
Yeah.
Dude, the mothership is outside my...
It does look like that. I can see why.
Yeah, and
it's crazy.
He described their movement. Now they're all in a line, and I went, I hate to rain on your parade, bro, but those are Elon Musk Starlinks.
Yeah,
they're over your territory.
What I found interesting, we just covered last week on the World Wide Web of Weird, was that Elon Musk has always been a critic of the UFO phenomenon and made jokes about it. But he just came out on Twitter last week basically saying, I'm not saying they're UFOs, but they're UFOs. And I was predicting this almost because I kept on, when I'd criticize Elon Musk, the mad scientist, about his criticism of UFOs, I'm like, well, he's putting all these Starlink satellites up there. He's going to start getting a bird's eye view of what's up there. Maybe his mind will get changed. And then this happened. Then the tweet came out. Like, maybe he did. Maybe Starlink has seen something that's changed his mind.
But he deleted the tweet.
I know. I don't know what that's about, but I wonder if Starlink actually, what better view do you have with all those satellites? You'd think he'd be able, if something's going on up there, they're going to catch wind of it. He's got a bird's eye view. He's got thousands of satellites up there collecting data.
Of them.
Yeah. So, put enough up there, maybe UFO crash into one. I don't know. We got to go to commercial break. When we come back for the last half hour, phone lines will still be open, guys. Call in, share your experiences, ask your questions of our guest, Martin Keller, author of The Space Pen Club. When we come back from the short commercial break, of course, where's my music? There it is. And don't forget, guys, we do have Super Chat. If you want to help donate to the show, and you can do it on Super Chat on YouTube. We also have Patreon, $2 a month. It does help pay the bills for this show. Thank you to all my patrons out there, and thank you to everybody who shares the show out. Keep supporting the show that way, but we'll be right back after a short commercial break.
intercepted the transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDev.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up.
begun.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight we've been talking to guest Martin Keller, author of the Space Pen Club, and about his experiences, be it a paranormal, UFO. He's still trying to decipher them, just like I'm trying to decipher my experiences. And I think a lot of you have had weird experiences like that. You could almost sum up I don't know. Is it paranormal? Is it UFO? These are the questions. This is why we come together to try to put these pieces of the puzzle together. So call in, join this conversation. Let me make sure the phone lines are back open here. Get them what did it do there? Trying to get my phone lines open. But you can call in, join the conversation. This less than a half hour left in the show. Tell us about your experiences or ask your questions of our guests. But let's go ahead and get right back into it. Thank you for hanging in there with us, Martin. All right, so you said you're still kind of having a little bit of experiences going on, even after this book came out?
Yeah, I've had two kind of strange incidents. I'll talk about the one. It happened in March. I was feverishly trying to finish the book, although I did a lot of revisions right up until early June, just basically because there was so much buildup to the government report. I wanted to be current on that and quote some of the news items and op-ed pieces that had been appearing in the mainstream media, which in my mind was a breath of fresh air. But I went out for Chinese food to a Chinese restaurant about 4 blocks from where we live, and you have to cross a fairly busy urban highway that runs from downtown Minneapolis to the airport. It's Hiawatha Avenue, otherwise known as Highway 55. And I was coming back after picking up the food, and I was thinking to myself, well, a couple days earlier, I had been thinking like, wow, I think my high strangeness episodes in my life are over with. I haven't had anything weird happening. And then I just put it out of my mind. But on the way back, coming north on 55 to turn left to get onto the street where we live, I'm stuck at a red light waiting for that green turn signal to come on, and I'm facing north toward downtown. I can see the city skyline from where I am very clearly, and just kind of all of a sudden out of the darkness against the skyline, this object appears with 5 or 6 portals that are pretty visible. The craft, if it was in fact a craft,
right,
appeared sort of whitish in color, and I'm sitting there at the light looking at this thing, and it's moving across the highway about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away, and maybe.
But you could see like windows, like
I
you
could
said,
see
portals.
I could see portals or windows.
Wow!
And it was about, I would guess, a couple 100 feet in the air. And then my first reaction was to look at other cars to see if they were noticing this, and I couldn't really tell because it was so dark out. And then I tried to follow this thing as it moved easterly, but then the green light came and I had to go because there were cars behind me. But I definitely saw this, and I got home and I told my wife, I said, geez, I think the boys upstairs have been active tonight. And I described
Yeah.
the sighting.
Like they heard you.
But the kicker in this story is that 2 days later, I was over at Curtis Hayes' house. The guy I referred to earlier, kind of a legendary rock and roll singer and songwriter who makes these fabulous comic book collages that are usually centered around UFO and superhero stuff. They're really amazing pieces of work. But he's a wonderful rock singer, and critics across the country love him. And he's never really played the music industry game to get famous, although he's certainly would be deserving of any fame because he's a terrific singer and interpreter and a fairly good songwriter. Anyway, I went over to Kurt's house because he was going to custom make one of his art pieces. And he always has UFO books on his coffee table. Yeah. I saw one and I picked it up, and I hadn't seen this particular book before. And it was a small book. It was just a collection of UFO images, and I'm scrolling through it. I'm paging through it, and about halfway through this little booklet, I see this exact same object, and I go, Kurt, this is what I saw the other night. And he goes, oh, cool, man. And that was kind of the end of the discussion.
But what was it a picture? Was it a photograph somebody took, or was it a drawing?
Collection.
It was
photographs. And
wow,
same object was in there. It's like, oh well, it's in the catalog. It must be real.
Well, wow. So I love it when people have that experience. They see something in the sky, and then they can get to compare notes to something else. They see a picture that matches exactly what they saw. That's there's a lot of different kinds of UFOs people see in that. That just seems crazy that you would end up just happening to see that picture. Like, there's always synchronicities that play into this that that boggles the mind sometimes. Yeah.
The whole first chapter of my book is centered around the overwhelming number of synchronicities that were kind of in the build-up to meeting Greer and to the high strangeness things happening in the house. So I don't play down synchronicity. I always
me neither.
It seems to be almost like an affirmation of whatever path you're on or whatever you're.
Again, it points to something on a consciousness level. Alien technology it can go so far. When you start talking about synchronicities, we're talking about something spiritual almost.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fine line, or it may be, in fact, what it's all about. It may be a spiritual aspect that just manifests in these different forms.
And I was always fascinated. One of the reasons I got fascinated with the moon, and this was John Lear on Art Bell's show many years ago, talking about the aliens were basically in control of our incarnation here on planet. Like, the moon was a big soul capacitor. And I found out later when I asked John Lear about this, when I called him up on a radio show, this came out of him and Whitley Strieber, shooting the crap one night, basically theorizing about stuff and from Whitley's experiences. And John Lear went on this whole tangent about how the light at the end of the tunnel is actually the aliens, that they're in some part of our afterlife or control of our afterlife. And that's kind of a scary thought. But again, that could explain why there's this whole spiritual aspect. And like I said, people's abduction experiences a lot of times correlate very similar to people's near-death experiences too.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing discussion, but it often leads into the rabbit holes.
Oh yeah. Oh, it definitely leads into the rabbit holes for sure. But like I said, it's this whole idea: is it physical, or is it both, or is it consciousness? And when you have an experience like yours, where you're thinking about, the high strangeness is done, and it's like they come out and tell you, nope, you're not done yet. Here we are. We're waving at you through the portals of our ship. You know, it's like they are listening to our thoughts.
It was pretty stunning.
You know, I had an experience. It wasn't a UFO I saw, but it makes me think about consciousness and that. And so whoever just called in too, I tried picking up the line, but it hung up. I have issues sometimes. Try calling again. We got time. But when I was on the phone once with Terry Lovelace, we were talking about some things that we've never talked about on the show, and I can't say. But there were some things I was like warning him, like, you might be in danger here. You know, I wish one day maybe we'll get to talk about it. But it was like 30 minutes after I got off the phone with him, I had this helicopter hovering over my house, really freaking low. It was shaking the house, it felt like. My wife's like, what is going on? You know, and I opened my door, and it's like, as soon as I open my door, it suddenly takes off, and I see it fly right over my house, like just over the tree line, which is really low. Like, that's way too low for a helicopter to be. And I sat there going, I don't know what that was. And then I find out, like, a couple weeks later, talking to Terry, he mentions, like, him and his some family members having these helicopters that are buzzing their homes. And he even took pictures of it. I'm like, well, that's really interesting, Terry, because right after we got off the phone, I had this whole helicopter buzz my house. And my wife's like, that's it. We're done. Like, it freaked her out because she was there for it and she witnessed it, because it freaked her out. Like, what is going on? And, you know, we've had helicopters fly over. There was a hospital not far from us where helicopters would fly, but never that low, never like that. And it's like, before I finally decided to go, okay, I got to open the door and find out what's going on. I swear it was like 4 or 5 minutes. It was hovering just over our house. And is that, you know, some people say the black helicopters. I couldn't tell. It was dark. It was nighttime. All I could see was its blinking red lights as it flew over the tree line. It could have been a black helicopter. Some people think the helicopters are alien ships in disguise, like it's a holographic thing or something like that. I could buy that, because I don't see how the military or anybody, if they were listening on our phone call, decided to buzz my house with a helicopter, could get one out here that quick. You know, it almost felt like, I don't know. It's a weird experience. I don't know. You
you can't divulge what the conversation with Terry was about?
No, sadly. It's something still private. And all I can say is that some stuff that he was getting information from and whatever, I said I gave him some connections to some other historical MK stuff. Connections to what he was talking about, and I said, this is some dangerous MyLab information ground we're tripping into here that could be dangerous, because that's what I look at the whole MyLab experience when you talk about people who might be taken by the military. That, to me, that's more dangerous than the aliens taking you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And chapter 3 of the book is focused largely on monogram by Martin Keller, written in the early 90s, about how MK was never really investigated far enough, and that these psychotronic weapons that we've had for a very long time, probably since the 50s, are capable of creating the whole abduction experience. And
right,
it's funny because Cannon went on apparently to blow the monogram itself is about 60 pages, and it's highly researched, a lot of annotated footnotes. Apparently he went on to publish it as a 300-page book. He apparently expanded on it, and then he came out and denounced all of his research and said, this
so weird.
This stuff has caused me more problems than I could ever have imagined.
Wow.
And the book is now out of print.
Wow.
You know, I think, dude, you protest too much. It just verifies that what you were in there, that what was in there is probably right on the nose.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about, I mean, international crimes, I mean, that could be committed using this stuff by our own government and other governments. You're not going to want to admit it. You know, you want it to be clandestine if you're using it against people. I mean, we've had Nick Redfern on the show several times, and I always found his conversations interesting when he talks about, like, PSYOP programs by the government. Like, he wrote a whole book on Rendlesham Forest as possibly a PSYOP program. There's an incident where I wish I knew remember the name of this, where a farmer, I think it was in South America or somewhere, was like taken, and his whole description is laid out by evidence of some other whistleblowers, it sounded like he was taken by a helicopter, not a UFO, but he was drugged, like gassed from the air.
Yeah.
And he had like this whole like sexual encounter with like this kind of like woman from Venus kind of, total like 1960s sci-fi that he had. But it was like a whole experiment faking an abduction in the 60s, and how many times have they done it since?
Yeah, it's really a mind blower, and I think if we ever have a true disclosure, we're going to have to also have a parallel truth commission where these programs are brought into the light out of the black world, the psyops world. Like what they did in South Africa after apartheid ended. They set up these reconciliation commissions, and they weren't going to prosecute people that had oppressed the black Africans for so long.
I'd say a lot of the people that were involved in the original secret are dead. I mean, just time-wise, are probably dead.
Yeah, but
there's other people since that probably committed crimes or done things they don't want to come out, and it would be
right.
If we wanted that truth to come out, a way to give them a opening to say you will be forgiven for all crimes as long as the truth is given, I guess.
Yeah, you got to put the truth on the table, and we won't prosecute you for your crimes.
Yeah, I mean, and these crimes could be murder, too. These crimes, there's plenty of people who have accused the government of knocking off researchers or other people, witnesses.
Well, it's been said. I don't like to go there because I don't have proof, and I could never really prove it. But I know a lot of people hold that belief.
I don't think they have to do that now. I mean, it's pretty easy to just destroy somebody's reputation. There's so many ways to do it, and they don't have to worry about. I don't think they'd have to kill anybody because there's so much. We're in the land of confusion, I'm saying, and illusion. I mean, literally, they don't have to worry about anybody saying anything because they can all be written off. I mean, look at the whole Bob Lazar story, how that played out.
Right.
I mean, people are still arguing about is Bob Lazar legit or not. Still, the argument continues. And how many years has that been? If he's the real deal, then the government has nothing to worry about because obviously people are going to question it and argue about it forever. Without actual legitimate. Only way really is if somebody puts like solid, legitimate material proof down on the table. Do they have to worry?
Yeah. Yeah. I still don't know what to think about Lazar because I've read so much on both sides of the issue, and it's not a topic I want to dwell on. I have better things to think about, and like I said a couple times in the book, this is my farewell to ufology. But
I can't blame you. I mean, I'm not an expert or anything, but I've been fascinated and in this since I was a kid, and there's a lot of stuff that. Even in the whole paranormal world, there's a lot of stuff that people I listen to and like, oh wow, and then I find out they're full of what. You mentioned in your book, I hate to call it out, but you had Sean David Morton, right, limousine, right? And I used to listen to those interviews on Art Bell with him, and he, really turned to be some scuzz, and a lot of crap. And now looking back, it's like, wow, man, that guy could really spin a tale.
Yeah, he was good at it.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Jonathan Reed, you remember, I don't know if you ever heard of that one. He was the one that he had an alien body in the freezer. Boy, he could really narrate that story and tell you everything, but he was complete fraud. And it's pretty well proven that he's a con artist. But you know what? He's still selling that whole story down in Mexico with Jaime Maussan.
Wow.
You can't sell it here in America anymore because he's pretty much been debunked. But he goes down to Mexico and sells it and does speeches there. Yeah, but that's what happens in this community. It attracts big egos, and it attracts those big egos that tell big lies, and maybe for profit or attention, I don't know. And it dilutes the water. Some people say, "Oh, they're disinformation agents." Stephen Greer's been accused of that. I don't know how many times.
Right.
The government doesn't have to do anything. We tear each other apart. I say they don't have to do anything at all, really. They can just let us eat each other alive trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I think
until
that's
somebody has
right.
like real proof.
Yep.
And the only thing I'd say about the Bob Lazar thing is I did find it interesting. In the documentary Jeremy Corbell did, and we covered this on my World Wide Web of Weird, is the whole FBI raid on his facility, his nuclear dynamics, whatever that he owned. That they did this raid right after right after they had this conversation about element 115 and does Bob Lazar have it, and he wouldn't answer the question, and next thing you know, his facility's being raided. And there's been skeptics that, oh well, no, it's because he was involved in this investigation. Well, the stuff that came out originally about why they raided his stuff is a totally different story according to the FBI. I find it I don't know if Bob Lazar is legit or not, but I find it fascinating that not long after he has this conversation with Jeremy Corbell about element 115, which would be like if Bob Lazar did sneak a piece of that out somehow, I doubt it, but if he did and he was holding on to it, that would be a big threat. That would be scientific proof right there that this is real. And maybe he does, and he knows if he does release it, then he's in big, he could be in big jeopardy. I don't know, maybe it's an insurance policy for him, but I found that whole thing interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of great tales like that in this field. So,
yeah, like I said, I mean, it goes all the way back to the 1950s Space Brother conventions. I mean, it's just a different form of it for people sometimes. I mean, I'm all for CSETI's what they're trying to do. I get it. I think there should be all aspects of this explored, be it trying to find physical evidence, looking at it from a consciousness perspective, I think is very important. And so I'm totally behind that. And I will admit, I do agree with Stephen Greer when it comes to the whole government disclosure. I do feel like it is a big con job for more defense fund money.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting because there was recent legislation out of from I forget the representative's name in Congress, but setting up a legitimate office, actually closing down the two-person office that has been involved with the first report, the whole 9 pages of it, and really establishing a more bona fide agency to deal with the subject. So that's
Mark Rubio. I think that's who it was. No, isn't Rubio?
Rubio started that initially, but it's another guy.
Somebody else. Okay.
I just read the news thing on it recently, and it's starting to make its way through the news cycle, kind of at a lower level, but
there's too much other crap going on.
Oh yeah, it's not an A-list story yet, but it could become that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine now, like the 1952 over Washington D.C. sighting. That pushed. There was actually news conferences on that pushed it into the American perspective at the time. Imagine if something like that happened now with all the video capture devices and surveillance and everything. It was like proof positive, landing on the White House lawn or floating above the White House lawn. We had that kind of event. Then that's what everybody said. That'll be the defining moment of, okay, government, what do you got to say now? Do you think that event could happen?
Well, that's a good question. I was doing Grant Cameron's podcast, guy out of Canada, Winnipeg. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he had a roundtable discussion prior to the release of the report, and one of the people on the panel, I think his name was Preston Denton.
Well, yeah, Preston Dennett. He was just on the show a few weeks ago or
I'm not too
a month
familiar
ago.
with him, but anyway, apparently he's a contactee, and he said that there would, since we've got this thing in motion with some sort of disclosure maneuver on the government's part, that there would be a ET display of some sort that was in the works, and it would be definitive, and it would be over a major city. I mean, I've heard this story.
Yeah, you heard it from Stephen Greer. You mentioned that in your book. He said like it was going to happen in 10 years, and 10 years went by, it didn't happen, you know.
Yeah, or down in the Four Corners, it didn't happen. But I've heard it elsewhere that there would be, you know, from other folks in the UFO ghetto, as Greer famously calls it, that
the UFO ghetto.
That there would be a demonstration soon, sometime yet this year, early next year, and.
And then some people in the community won't trust it. They'll be like, "It's Project Bluebeam. It's all fake. It's all the government doing it." You know, it's weird land of illusion. We don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
Even if it's flat in our freaking face, might not believe it. I don't know. You know, I think everybody's so confused now. You know, there's so much information. This is the information age, and there's so much deception.
And we're in culturally, we're in the era of fake news and people that don't believe real news, like with the COVID thing and the whole pandemic and the vaccine. And I mean, it's really
everything's an argument.
It's mind-boggling how divisive everything has become. Even
if you want to keep a secret or keep people's attention away, what a great way to get everybody arguing with each other, and then nobody knows what's going on.
Pretty effective.
Yeah, it is really effective. Me and Jamie were just talking about this before the show, about opinions and sides that I can see people's points on both sides, but how they're nasty to each other, how nasty people are to each other over all kinds of different arguments now. And it's like, why? Why be that way? Can't you have a discussion without being nasty? Can't you, open your mind to know that maybe you don't know everything? I admit that. I could be wrong about a lot of things, but people can't have rational discussions anymore. Everything's got to be argument. I'm right, you're wrong. And that's the perfect time for trying to do a little bit of disclosure for the government. It's like nobody's paying attention. We're too busy yelling at each other.
Well,
it's sad. It's sad, really. It really is. Like I always thought, when I was a kid, like one day maybe it'll come out. We'll get that White House UFO landing or whatever, and we all come together. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Now that's how I feel. We'll just argue about, if this is real or not. Even if it's literally lands on the White House lawn, we'll still argue about if it's real or not.
Well,
I don't know.
The cynic in me always falls back to this. I don't know if you ever saw the movie District 9.
Yes.
Where the visitors are stuck.
Yeah.
And people were all excited when they first came, and now they've been here so long and they can't get back to their planet, that they really become just kind of low beings on the human totem pole.
Yeah.
And they're sort of ghettoized, and people really, they don't give a shit about them, basically.
Yeah. Well, there was a good movie and TV show called Alien Nation that kind of covered that too. That the aliens, they came here and then they end up becoming like, just kind of same thing. Like, it's basically like the hold on.
They took our jet.
Kind of scenario. Like they're the illegal aliens. I don't know. I hope it never turns into something like that. But like I said, if they're a threat that to us, or if they are here for bad intentions, we're screwed. Might as well just throw in the hat because there's no way we're fighting that kind of technology. Well, Martin, it is a true honor to have you on the show. I'm going to continue to enjoy reading your book. Everybody check out The Space Pen Club by Martin Keller. You can find this pretty much everywhere, right? Amazon, bookstores?
Amazon for the moment. You can also, I'm trying to blog at least once a week, although I'm 2 weeks behind now currently, at the spacepenclub.com. And there's a link. You can jump right onto Amazon, order the book from there. And there's also more background about the book.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Martin, again for being on the show.
Thank you, Jason, and all of your cohorts there. And have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. All right, guys, that's it for the show. We will be back. Oh, that's not the wrong music. Man, I am off my game. Here we go. We will be back next Sunday. Same bad time, same bad channel with guest Saban, if I'm saying this, Saban Smith, a medium. Will be joining us by the Skype line that night, but so we'll only have the one phone line open, or two actually, but one line. I don't know if she's going to do readings or not. I'll find out, but we will have her on. She is a medium. We'll talk to her next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks to everyone who shares out the show. Keep telling your friends about Paranormal Soup, an open forum and a place where we can come and talk about our unusual paranormal experiences without any judgment, and a great chat room to talk and meet new friends in. It's one of the things I'm most proud about. Thank you to all the Patreons for your $2 a month. It does help pay the bills for the show. Thank you to anybody who ever donates on Super Chat. John, I've seen you donate a couple times. Thank you. All right, guys, that's it. See you next week. Have a great night.